Chapter 791. Dongbua Shui Ying held onto his wife's hand. That's right, he still had them. But his wife had cultivated for a very long period in her previous life. She had cultivated for more than 2 billion years in the Devil Mountain cosmos. Yet she was stuck at the stage 4 world deity bottleneck and could not transcend. If she could not transcend, her soul would dissipate and her body would die. In the following years, Dongbua Shui Ying's black-robed avatar had always been cultivating at the starting ground. As for his true body, he would think of ways to help his wife and son. He would obtain some rare cultivation scriptures and cosmos treasures. He had even deliberately arranged for his wife and son to explore some historical remains while he guided them in the dark. Time passed. In the blink of an eye, it had been 1 billion years since Dongbua Shui Ying became a ruler. Within the cultivator cosmos, Dongbua Shui Ying's status was becoming more and more stable. In the current Cosmos Deity Demon list created by Primal Master, the first was Bloodblade, the second was Monarch Dongbo, the third was Purgatory Ruler, and the fourth was Monarch Green. Snow Eagle, you think you can injure me with this move? On a great land amidst the starry sky, 2 figures were currently facing each other. One was the crimson-robed Bloodblade, and the other was the white-robed Dongbua Shui Ying. This land was personally refined by Bloodblade as an ordinary cultivation ground. Currently, in the entire cosmos, only Dongbua Shui Ying could spar with him. Even if it was just a spar, the 2 of them had to control their strength. They could only display the laws and profound mysteries and compete with each other. They did not dare to use their full strength. The Walker's hidden secret had long been pushed to the 20th level. Such strength was something Dongbua Shui Ying did not dare to casually display within the cosmos. Bloodblade was originally amazing. After stepping into the Void God realm for so many years, his strength had become even more unfathomable. Master, don't be too pleased with yourself. I wonder who it was that got kicked by me last time. Dongbua Shui Ying teased. The 2 of them were purely sparring and competing in terms of techniques. Because they had 3 Chaos-grade absolute arts, Shadowless Heaven's Net, 3,000 incarnations, and Divine Light Scripture, in addition to the large number of precious manuals left behind by the primogenitor Devil Mountain. Dongbua Shui Ying's battle techniques were also extremely profound and powerful. Previously, he had relied on his illusionary realm and 3,000 incarnations to cause Bloodblade to suffer a loss. Of course, the Bloodblade forbade the use of all formations. They were only allowed to use laws of profound mysteries, which was why they were at a disadvantage. Bloodblade said calmly, "That was because I was careless." "Then take another attack from your disciple," Dongbua Shui Ying said. "This is the 8th chapter of the Wind Ripple Path that your disciple has created." "Oh," Bloodblade's eyes lit up. "Take this." Dongbua Shui Ying's body abruptly turned blurry. In just a blur, a figure had already appeared in front of Bloodblade. There weren't any fluctuations, and the wind was still blowing in the surroundings. The grass and trees weren't affected at all, but Dongbua Shui Ying's speed was so fast that even rulers were speechless. Bloodblade was startled and wanted to act. But at the instant he was about to act, Dongbua Shui Ying's figure suddenly vanished, leaving behind a blur in the air as he appeared far away. What fast speed! Bloodblade was inwardly shocked when he saw this. How powerful was his law domain? He could tell that Dongbua Shui Ying didn't rely on his physical strength or speed. Instead, he relied on the laws of profound mysteries to achieve such a speed. All of a sudden, from afar, another Dongbua Shui Ying appeared, following which another Dongbua Shui Ying appeared behind Bloodblade. Right now, there were a total of 3 Dongbua Shui Ying. All 3 of them flashed as they simultaneously attacked Bloodblade. All 3 of them had a spear in their hands, and their spears were similar to their movement techniques. Although it seemed like a simple stab, the spear merely left behind a blur in the air as it arrived before Bloodblade. Dang. Bloodblade used both his hands to block. How can this brat's speed be so fast? I can't even defend against him. Initially, I wanted to use this newly comprehended technique to intimidate him, but he forced me to use it first. Boom! Countless blood-colored blades shot out from Bloodblade's body, instantly destroying everything in his surroundings. Donghua Shuiying was so frightened that he hurriedly retreated. The countless blood-colored blades revolved around Bloodblade, forming a gigantic sphere. This sphere was so natural that it felt like it was the sun itself, causing Donghua Shuiying to exclaim in shock. "How is it?" Bloodblade chuckled. "Teacher, you did not use it the previous time." Donghua Shuiying was slightly startled. Previously, my Tao of Bloodblade had just reached the Void Origin Realm, and I had yet to consolidate it. Now that I have cultivated for a period, it is naturally different, Bloodblade said. He felt some lingering fear. Without using the arrays, Void God energy, and physical strength, he had nearly lost in a competition of laws and profound mysteries. This disciple of his was amazing. Donghua Shuiying sighed inwardly. A Void God was indeed a Void God. Without relying on the Walker's hidden secret, it was too difficult to defeat him. He had 3 primal chaos ranked absolute arts, allowing him to unleash a strength that far surpassed ordinary rulers. But it was still useless. But he was curious too. If he were to use his full strength, he did not know how far he could push his teacher. Ultimately, his strongest technique was still the Walker's hidden secret. But his teacher's strongest technique was still the hex system. Furthermore, it would be even more amazing once he used his Void God energy. "Teacher," Donghua Shuiying said, "there's a matter that I have to request of teacher." "Haha, currently, other than me, no one is your opponent in the cosmos. You have something to request of me?" Bloodblade chuckled. "Say it. I hope that teacher can help protect my loved ones." Donghua Shuiying said, "You want me to help protect them?" Bloodblade felt puzzled. "What about you?" This disciple of his was a ruler and had 3 bodies. "I am preparing to leave the cosmos." Donghua Shuiying said, "I'm going to enter the primal chaos void." "Enter the primal chaos void?" Bloodblade was startled. "How can you enter without becoming a void god?" Donghua Shuiying nodded. "I have a way." Guqian Luo relied on the primal chaos flying ship to travel through the primal chaos void. "I have my own way too." He had thought about it for a very long time. The departure of his father, mother, Uncle Zong, Uncle Tong, and his little brother had indeed stimulated him because they were his loved ones. During the recent 1 billion years, he had been helping his wife Jing Xiao and his son in hopes that they could transcend. But transcending was too difficult. Donghua Shuiying could only provide external help. In the end, he still had to rely on himself to break through. 1 billion years had passed, yet his wife Jing Xiao had yet to break through. Donghua Shuiying was afraid that day would come. He could not accept such an outcome. Cultivation, what was it for? Becoming powerful? Unparalleled? Ever since Donghua Shuiying was young, he had cultivated for his family. If his loved ones were not around, what was the point of cultivating to become stronger? Even if he was alive, he would just be a walking corpse. Maybe other rulers and experts had once felt the pain of losing their loved ones, but over the long years, these experts had gradually placed their focus on cultivation. But Donghua Shuiying could not do it. Perhaps there might be a day when he focused on cultivation over time so that he could forget about his loved ones. But that path was not what he wanted. If he stayed in the cultivator cosmos, there would be no dangers, no fortuitous encounters, and no experts. His improvement speed would be very slow. He could only walk out and enter a vaster world. Only then would he be able to grow even faster. Moreover, he would be able to obtain more treasures and external items that could aid him in cultivation. This would greatly increase the chances of Jing Xiao and the rest transcending. "Are you really going to head out?" Bloodblade asked. "Amen." Donghua Shuiying nodded. "Where to?" Bloodblade asked. 7-star Oceanic Sacred World. Donghua Shuiying replied. "Are you still planning to return?" Bloodblade asked. He was different from Donghua Shuiying. The witchcraft system researched the myriad of things. He was not in a rush and patiently cultivated. He would only leave when the cosmos epoch was about to end. Moreover, he wanted to leave with his clansmen. He could not leave as he pleased. "Before the end of the cosmos epoch, I will return." Dongbua Shuang replied. According to my senses, this cosmos epoch should have about 1,360 billion years left. Bloodblade said, I will return within 1,000,000,000,000 years. Dongbua Shuang said, 1,000,000,000,000 years. A very long time. Only with sufficient time would Dongbua Shuang have the confidence to find treasures that could allow his family to transcend. As for his family's lifespan, if there was no hope of breaking through, he could enter the Eden world to continue living. Within the Eden world, time was maintained at an extremely slow speed. It was not difficult to slow it down to 1/10,000th of a second. To Dongbua Shuang, the energy consumed was not considered much. His wife and son had spent 100 million years within the Eden world. 1,000,000,000,000 years might have passed in the outside world. By the time he returned, the situation would be completely different. It would not be like this, helplessly watching as they approached the end of their lifespans. You are the ruler, yet you want to leave the cosmos? Bloodblade shook his head. The primal chaos void is extremely dangerous. I understand. Dongbua Shuang nodded. The Void Walker inheritance had long since informed him of the information from the outside world. Why do you not cultivate within the cosmos until the end of the cosmos epoch? With your comprehension ability, you might not be any weaker than the Ancestor Devil. Bloodblade said, when that time comes, there will be very few who can threaten you. For my family, Dongbua Shuang said. Bloodblade was startled. Family? A figure appeared in the depths of his memories. It had been too long. Back then, it was because of the relationship between Dongbua Shuang and his wife that he made an exception and accepted him as a disciple. I understand. Bloodblade nodded. Back then, he had tried all sorts of methods to allow his wife to become a stage 1 world deity. In the end, his wife's soul had dissipated and she had died. If only his wife could become a stage 4 world deity, he might have done everything he could to allow his wife to transcend. He understood Dongbua Shuang's thoughts. Thus, he did not stop him. Chapter 792. Within the grass hut in the starting ground, the violet-robed Dongbua Shuang opened his eyes. He had been cultivating here for the past 1,000,000,000 years. Looking around, he was incomparably familiar with the interior of the grass hut. He lightly shook his head with a smile. It is time to leave. He stood up and walked to the door. Pushing open the wooden door, he saw a white-haired old man seated cross-legged outside. This made Dongbua Shuang sigh inwardly. This white-haired old man had been guarding outside the door for as long as he cultivated. Senior, Dongbua Shuang said. Dongbua Shuang, why did you come out? The white-haired old man was slightly startled. I am preparing to take the ruler rank trial. Dongbua Shuang said. Before leaving the cosmos, he wanted to take the final trial. If he could pass it, there might be some gifts left behind by Forefather Tianyu that would give him a pleasant surprise. It might even help his wife and children. The white-haired old man was startled. You're going to take the ruler rank trial now? Dongbua Shuang, I have to remind you that the ruler rank trial is the final and most difficult trial in the starting ground. The moment you pass it, you will become the core golden-robed disciple of the Great Void Heaven Temple. The Great Void Heaven Temple will also nurture you with all their might. But correspondingly, the difficulty of the trial will be extremely high. In the 7-star Oceanic Sacred World, the Great Void Heaven Temple has a fixed number of 10 golden-robed disciples. Every time there's a great battle, a large number of violet-robed disciples will challenge the trial. Only the strongest 10 will become the core golden-robed disciples. Every single golden-robed disciple can surpass a realm and kill a void god at the ruler realm. Oh, Dongbua Shuang was startled. A ruler surpassing a realm and killing a void god? One had to know that there was a huge gap between true god and void god. Even though Dongbua Shuang thought highly of himself, and even cultivated the Void Walker system, and the Void Walker system was a system that gave him a huge advantage in the early stages, he only felt that he could fight against a new void god. He did not dare think of killing a void god as a ruler. The Great Void Heaven Temple has many ordinary sovereigns, over 100 violet-robed disciples, and a fixed number of 10 gold-robed disciples. No matter how monstrous the sovereigns are, they will always be the 10 strongest. The white-haired old man said, "Because you were born in the cosmos, you have passed the test of the starting ground. If you pass and become a golden-robed disciple, then you can temporarily enjoy the various benefits of being a golden-robed disciple. However, once you reach the 7-star oceanic sacred world, there will be an internal challenge every billion years. You must participate in it. If you can't get into the top 10, you will be demoted to a purple-clothed disciple." Donghua Shui Ying nodded lightly. Also, because this is not the Great Void Heaven Temple, even if you become a golden-clothed disciple, you will only be able to enjoy a portion of the benefits of being a golden-clothed disciple of the Great Void Heaven Temple. The white-haired old man said, "Of course, you will be able to enjoy those benefits once you go to the 7-star oceanic sacred world. Firstly, in the cosmos, the cultivation resources are inferior to the 7-star oceanic sacred world. Secondly, the benefits obtained would be relatively weaker. Therefore, the difficulty of the test was lower than the one in the 7-star oceanic sacred world. Over there, it was a competition between disciples. As for the starting ground, it has prepared a fixed opponent for you. As long as you kill it, you will become a golden-clothed disciple." "Kill it? Who is it?" Donghua Shui Ying asked. "A void god, a slightly weaker void god." The white-haired old man said, "The golden-clothed disciples in the 7-star oceanic sacred world can kill ordinary void gods. This kind of extremely weak void god is much easier to kill. But no matter what, is still a void god. I advise you to cultivate for a while more. Your cultivation period is still too short," the white-haired old man advised. Donghua Shui Ying was not confident anymore. Killing a slightly weaker void god, and the difficulty had been lowered, he felt that the golden-clothed disciple of the Great Void Heaven Temple was much stronger than that Gu Qianluo. Gu Qianluo was also one of the sacred sons under the Ancestor Bone Throne, though he was clearly weaker. The most dazzling expert in the laws and profound mysteries system was indeed terrifying. "I still want to try," Donghua Shui Ying said. "Try? You only have a single chance. If you fail, you will be chased out." The white-haired old man advised again. "There's no need to say anymore." Donghua Shui Ying shook his head. Regardless of whether he succeeded or failed, he would leave this cosmos after the battle. The white-haired old man saw that he could not persuade Shui Ying and could only helplessly say, all right, I'll bring you over. You are truly too confident." Under the guidance of the white-haired old man, Donghua Shui Ying entered a vast space. This space was filled with black soil. This is a slightly weaker void god puppet refined by Forefather. The white-haired old man said, "It is completely an imitation of a real void god. After killing it, it will undergo incubation, and 3 days later, it will be revived. Naturally, you just have to kill it. It is a life form that lives in the primal chaos void called the 100 Leading Howls. You might not have heard of it before, but you have to be careful. Don't be defeated right from the start. I'm still looking forward to the birth of a golden-clothed disciple." Donghua Shui Ying felt his heart move. 100 Leading Howls? It was recorded in the large amount of information within the Voidwalker inheritance. "Then I'll let it out," the white-haired old man said. Clearly, his attitude towards Donghua Shui Ying was much closer. The black soil began to tremble, and a huge creature began to emerge from within. After all, it was a life form that lived in the primal chaos void, and its body was naturally huge. It had many colorful tentacles, and every tentacle was very long. At the center of its body, there were many huge heads. Every head had a single horn, a single eye, and a huge bloody mouth. Ho! The 100 heads roared at the same time, causing the surrounding void to shatter. As it shattered, countless shockwaves formed in the distance, sweeping towards Donghua Shui Ying. It loved to roar, but the shockwaves produced by its roar were not that threatening. Rulers with weaker bodies could not withstand it and die. But to Donghua Shui Ying, who had cultivated the walker's hidden secret to the 20th level, he completely disregarded it. He was clear that the true power of this 100 leading howls had not been revealed yet. After the roar, the 100 leading howls seemed to have become much more comfortable. Only then did it turn all its heads towards the direction of Dongbua Shuang. Every single I was staring at Dongbua Shuang, and an unseen spiritual shockwave came crushing down on him. But regardless of whether it was the complete walker's hidden secret, inheritance in his soul, or the godlike scripture, Dongbua Shuang was able to disregard this spiritual shockwave. The single eye that formed a spiritual shockwave was merely a natural shockwave produced by an existence with a higher level of life, the void god. It was not its true technique. The entire space suddenly turned dark. The 100 heads of the 100 leading howls opened their bloody mouths at the same time. Every single mouth spurted out a black fog. The dark space and the black fog began fusing together. Even though, according to the information from the Voidwalker inheritance, I should entice it to spurt out more poisonous fog and make it weaker, increasing my chances of winning. But let's give it a try first and see if I can kill it directly. Dongbua Shuang knew that the golden-robed disciples of the great Void Heaven Temple could transcend realms and kill void gods. His heart was filled with fighting spirit. If others could do it, you should be able to do it too. Wang. The violet-robed Dongbua Shuang remained standing there. At this moment, it was just an incarnation of his. His true body had stealthily entered the mirage world and executed the void evasive maneuver, directly arriving in front of the head of the void god 100 leading howls. Chapter 793. The 20th level of Walker's hidden secret made Dongbua Shuang's void evasive maneuver extremely formidable. He could move stealthily to the side of the enemy. Adding on the concealment of the mirage world, it was even more formidable. At least, the 100 leading howls did not discover him. A silver spear suddenly appeared from nothingness. It pierced towards the eye of one of the heads of the 100 leading howls. The spear was like a blurred shadow. It was too fast and too sudden, but being at the void god level, the 100 leading howls could still instinctively move its head. The spear that was originally piercing towards the eye had pierced into the face of that head. Its skin was extremely tough. It was born with many tiny vein patterns, causing Dongbua Shuang to feel as if a spear was piercing into nothingness. Furthermore, there were all sorts of chaotic energy guiding it. Pooh! A small part of its face was pierced through. Its skin was broken. As the spear was pulled out, black blood splattered. Roar! The 100 leading howls roared even more violently, and the bloody mouths of the 100 heads spat out a poisonous fog. The poisonous fog combined with the surrounding darkness domain to corrode and destroy everything in its path. The disguised incarnation in the distance could not withstand it and was directly dissolved. The power of this domain even invaded the mirage world. Even though there is a huge realm gap between true God and void God, I have reached the 20th level of Walker's hidden secret. My strength is sufficient to threaten void god life. Even though the first spear was just to check its strength without using any killing moves, even if I did, I would at most injure it. Within the mirage world, Snow Eagle looked at the 100 leading howls. He could not help but shake his head inwardly. The intelligence isn't fake. This 100 leading howls might be foolish, but to kill it, I have to force it to spit out more poisonous fog, causing its strength to fall. Only then can I kill all of its heads. The way to kill the 100 leading howls was to destroy all of its heads. This was considered relatively simple. Some powerful void gods like Bloodblade, who specialize in researching the myriad existences witchcraft system, would transform their bodies to become extremely powerful. They could be said to have an undying body, and their survival capabilities were much stronger than that of the 100 leading howls. The world was dark. Poisonous fog pervaded everywhere. The 100 leading howls floated in the sky. Countless tentacles enveloped everywhere. Its 100 heads swept across the place, yet did not continue spitting out poisonous fog. Dongbua Shuang appeared. However, his body was faintly discernible. He could feel the terrifying pressure from the dark domain outside. This pressure was enough to kill Monarch Green and the Purgatory ruler. After all, the bodies of Monarch Black and the others were weaker than the 11th level of the Walker's hidden secret. You think you can kill me with this? Donghua Shui-Ying laughed out loud. Instantly, countless blood-colored ripples appeared around him. The blood-colored ripples spread out in all directions. Each ripple was like a silk thread. Countless blood-colored ripples crisscrossed as if they were a single entity, attacking in all directions. Slaughter Domain. His Tao of Slaughter and Tao of Ripple had long reached the ruler realm. Moreover, he had comprehended the chaos-grade absolute art, Shadowless Heaven's Net. He had fused some of the ripple manipulation methods into the Slaughter Domain, causing the might of the Slaughter Domain to skyrocket. Although the Slaughter Domain was trying its best to break through, it was still shattered by the suppression of the surrounding Darkness Domain. Void. Donghua Shui-Ying also had the ability to control the Void, and the might of the Void manipulation at the 20th level was equally terrifying. The Void energy fused perfectly with the Slaughter Domain, suppressing everything in all directions. Hong Hong Hong, the blood-colored Ripple Domain, was doing its best to attack in all directions, while the Darkness Domain was continuously suppressing it, causing the Slaughter Domain to be maintained at a range of 50 kilometers. Who would have thought that even with the fusion of the Slaughter Domain and the Void energy, I am still at a disadvantage in a clash of domains? Donghua Shui-Ying thought, the gap between a ruler and a Void god is ultimately too big. The white-haired old man who was watching the battle by the side was startled. A ruler could actually clash with a Void god using his domain. Even though it was a slightly weaker Void god, it was still amazing. Die for me. The 100 leading howls roared out in an unknown language. Nevertheless, Donghua Shui-Ying understood what the other party meant the moment he heard it. The 100 leading howls continued roaring out poisonous fog. As the dark void and the poisonous fog fused together, it seemed to become stronger. Furthermore, chi-chi-chi sounds could be heard as it strangely corroded Donghua Shui-Ying's Slaughter Domain. The poisonous fog can corrode my domain? Donghua Shui-Ying felt fear inwardly. This little technique is useless against me. Donghua Shui-Ying was still laughing, provoking the other party. When the 100 leading howls turned into an illusion and charged over with a large number of tentacles, Donghua Shui-Ying would rely on the Mirage World and Void Teleportation to escape. He provoked the other party time and time again so that the 100 leading howls could not touch him. Occasionally, Donghua Shui-Ying would even use his incarnations to sneak and attack. He would even use his darts to sneak and attack. He would even use his true body to sneak and attack. But every time he did so, he would use part of his strength to prevent the 100 leading howls from detecting him. These sneak attacks could barely break the skin of the 100 leading howls, but it was sufficient to make them even more berserk. This weak ruler could actually escape so well. Since it could not chase after this enemy, it would spit out more poisonous fog in hopes of using the domain to trap the enemy. The white-haired old man had been observing the battle from the side. He watched as the 100 leading howls gradually weakened after spitting out more poisonous fog. Donghua Shui-Ying, who had been hiding his strength all this while, finally made sure that he could kill the 100 leading howls with sneak attacks. Only then did he unleash his full strength and execute his wind ripple path. His attacks were clearly much stronger than before. After successfully killing one of the 100 leading howls' heads, the 100 leading howls finally regained its senses. This damnable ruler was actually hiding his strength. At this time, the countless tentacles of the 100 leading howls also started to defend with all their might. However, Donghua Shui-Ying's movement technique was too powerful. Although killing the heads became more difficult, it was still possible if he spent a little more time. Time and time again, he launched sneak attacks and killed the heads with great difficulty. When all the heads were killed, the corpse of the 100 leading howls fell from the sky. At that moment, Donghua Shui-Ying heaved a sigh of relief. This battle lasted for 2 whole days. 90% of the time was spent killing the heads, because it took a long time to kill each head. You won. The white-haired old man chuckled as he looked at Donghua Shui-Ying, But you should understand that if not for Master giving this 100 leading howls puppet in order to kill you with all its might, it would have been much harder. If it were an ordinary battle, it would have been much harder for you to induce it to spit out so much poisonous fog. Furthermore, it would have long escaped with all its might when it discovered that something was amiss. This region of space is too small, and it can't escape at all. I understand. Dongboi Shuang nodded. Because this was a trial. That was why the puppet, the 100 leading howls, had long received the order to kill the ruler who came to take the trial. That was why it was so easily lured out of the poisonous fog. Fortunately, I have the intelligence beforehand. Otherwise, it would be much harder for me to win. This is still a slightly weaker void god. Dongboi Shui Ying had some understanding of himself. No matter what, I am still a void god. Being able to reach this stage means that I have the strength to fight against those of a higher realm. If I want to reach the strength of those golden-robed disciples in the 7-star oceanic sacred world, I still have to improve further. He cultivated the Void Walker system, yet it was so difficult for him to pass through the trial. You should not look down on other cultivators. That grass house at the center, that is where Forefather once stayed for a long time. It is also a place that only rulers can enter after passing through the trial. The white-haired old man said, "Amen." Dongboi Shuang pushed open the wooden door and entered. He stayed for a long time before coming out. When he came out, he was still wearing a golden robe. His eyes were filled with slight disappointment. The benefits of being a golden-robed disciple were huge. It had broadened his horizons. They treated the golden-robed disciples with great importance and care, not any less than how Void Walker Guqi treated his inheritors. After all, Void Walker Guqi was a lone ranger and did not know how to teach disciples. Instead, the Great Void Heaven Temple was more well-rounded. It's a pity that I did not manage to help Jing Xiu and Yuer. Dongboi Shuang was slightly disappointed. Actually, thinking about it, it was natural. The Great Void Heaven Temple would naturally help golden-robed disciples. Why would they help a stage 4 world deity transcend? What void god weapon do you need? The white-haired old man chuckled. Spear, Dongboi Shuang said. There are only 2 spears. I'll bring them over for you to choose. The white-haired old man said. Dongboi Shuang nodded. Weapons were external objects. What was truly important was what he had obtained back in the grass house. Black Fog Sea, Dongboi Monarch residence. There were very few who knew about his departure from the cosmos. Even his good friend Chi Chiu Bai, Paragon Hua Chung, senior apprentice brother Hui Ming, Chi Hua Laozu, and the rest, Dongboi Shuang only told them, I have an important matter to attend to and will only return after a long time. As for where he was going, he did not say. However, he did tell his wife and children. Their family of 4 was currently walking together within Monarch Dongboi residence. Regarding Dongboi Shui Ying's departure from the cosmos, his son, Dongboi Yu, had strongly objected. I can transcend by myself. Father, there's no need for you to risk your life. Even Jing Xiu objected at the start. Snow Eagle, we've been together for many years. Even if I die in the end, I'll be satisfied. There's no need for you to risk your life for me. Dongboi Shui Ying, however, did not waver at all. Jing Xiu and Yu were able to face death calmly and did not want him to take the risk. How could he watch as all of this happened? Without putting in any effort, he could not do it. With Dongboi Shui Ying's temperament, Jing Xiu and Dongboi Yu knew that they could not persuade him otherwise. They could only accept it and cherish their days together. I'll definitely return before this cosmos epic ends. Dongboi Shui Ying laughed. Jing Xiu, Dongboi Yu, and Dongboi Qingyao were all worried. It was even more dangerous outside. I'm a golden-robed disciple of the Great Void Heaven Temple. I won't die so easily. Dongboi Shui Ying laughed. He had already told his wife and son about the existence of the Great Void Heaven Temple. However, he told them to keep it a secret. All right, it's time to go. Dongboi Shui Ying said. At this moment, 2 other figures appeared. They were the other 2 bodies. The 3 bodies instantly fused into one. After leaving the cosmos, without the protection of the cosmos, one would be cleansed by the laws of the entire primal chaos void. One would need to have a complete life in order to survive in the primal chaos void. Therefore, when Guqian Luo was killed, it was a true death. That was why Guqian Luo felt so much despair. Who? With a single step, he appeared in the air above the Dongbua monarch residence. Jing Xiu, Dongbua Yu, and Dongbua Qingyao all raised their heads. Another figure appeared in the air. It was Bloodblade, who had been waiting in the surroundings. Snow Eagle, be careful. Leave the cosmos matters to me, Bloodblade said. He knew the route to the 7-star oceanic sacred world. He knew that it was a long and dangerous journey. However, after knowing that his disciple had become a golden-robed disciple, he had some confidence in his disciple. Emin, Dongbua Shuang waved his hand, causing a crack to appear. Beyond the crack was the vast primal chaos void. Dongbua Shuang turned back to look at his wife, son, and daughter. He had left behind everything that could be left behind. I'll be back, Dongbua Shuang thought. He then smiled at his family. Following that south, he directly flew out along the crack in the cosmos membrane. This scene startled Bloodblade slightly. He actually entered the primal chaos void with his body? Usually, only void gods could do it, yet a ruler could do it too? This disciple of mine has indeed met with extraordinary opportunities. Dongbua Shuang flew into that vast primal chaos void. The cosmos membrane gradually healed. Jing Xiu, Dongbua Yu, and Dongbua Qingyao looked up. Jing Xiu's eyes were already filled with tears. She had always been afraid that Dongbua Shuang would not return. I'll wait for you. Wait for you to return, Jing Xiu thought. Chapter 794. As Dongbua Shuang flew into the primal chaos void, he could sense an invisible law sweeping past him. He knew that this was the law of the primal chaos void. After entering this place, one would no longer be protected by the cosmos. Only life forms with perfect souls would be able to survive in the primal chaos void. Of course, they would also have to be able to withstand the vile environment of the primal chaos void. The primal chaos void looked like a piece of nothingness, but it was actually a mixture of countless energies. Some of them were terrifyingly destructive and were extremely cold. Just this coldness alone could easily freeze some rulers to death. However, Dongbua Shuang was like a fish in water in such an environment. After all, he was a void walker and could survive in the primal chaos void after reaching the 11th level. Now that he was at the 20th level, it was naturally easier for him. Cosmos. Dongbua Shuang turned around and looked behind him. It was a boundless existence, the cosmos. This was his hometown cosmos. It was huge, but it also protected the countless life forms within. Compared to the primal chaos void, the cosmos was much safer. In this vast primal chaos void, it is truly hard to tell the direction. Dongbua Shuang looked at the cold primal chaos void and released his senses towards the void. Instantly, his senses spread out. In terms of range, it was probably 100 times the size of the cosmos. With such a huge range, he could clearly sense that the formless energy within the primal chaos void was moving extremely slowly. It was as though the entire primal chaos void had a core. With that core as the origin, the entire primal chaos void was expanding in all directions. It was expanding continuously. The ancient saint world is over there. Dongbua Shuang nodded his head slightly. Based on the direction of the primal chaos void's expansion, he was able to deduce the location of the ancient saint world. Ancient saint world, it was also one of the 5 great sacred worlds. According to the legends, the ancient saint world was the origin of everything. Later on, the strongest existences in the ancient saint world who had reached the pinnacle of cultivation had engaged in a terrifying war. This war caused the ancient saint world to explode, and the remaining ancient saint world was probably only 100th of the original ancient saint world. It was also because of that war that the primal chaos void began to expand in all directions. The countless shattered pieces formed universes, primal chaos lands that were smaller than universes, and even smaller ones that were no longer suitable for life. As for those existences who had reached the pinnacle of cultivation, they also dispersed and began to open up new sacred worlds. However, over the long years, due to the pinnacle of cultivation, there were still sacred worlds that were destroyed. Currently, there were only 5 sacred worlds. The ancient sacred world and the 7-star oceanic sacred world were among them. Existences who have cultivated to the final realm are truly terrifying. Shui Ying sighed inwardly. They are existences who could destroy the sacred world. I have obtained an absolute art that could destroy a sacred world. There is indeed an absolute art currently existing in the mind of Shui Ying. This was a temple protection absolute art that he was qualified to acquire after becoming a golden robe disciple of the Great Void Heaven Temple. The Heaven Ying Saint World of the Ying Sect, Dynasty Ying Temple. Dongbua Shui Ying chose 13 Swords of Armageddon. Out of the 3 palace guarding absolute arts, it was the only one that was more compatible with Dongbua Shui Ying's laws of profound mysteries. This was because this palace guarding absolute art belonged to the Slaughter Dao. The 1-3 apocalyptic swords was created by the palace master of the Great Void Heaven Temple, Forefather Tianyu. Extremely terrifying and powerful. The first sword was so profound and complex that not even 1 in 100 hegemons could learn it. Those who could learn it were those with great comprehension abilities. The moment they grasped it, with this sword technique, they could transcend realms and fight against ordinary void gods with their ruler bodies. In other words, with just his swordsmanship alone, he would be able to rival the current Dongbua Shui Ying. The main reason why Dongbua Shui Ying was so strong was because of the Void Walker system. His self-created windstorm path was far inferior to the first sword. The second sword was even more terrifying. Rulers had almost no hope of grasping it. In the history of the Great Void Heaven Temple, there is only one Tao of sword genius who grasped it at the ruler realm. Others who comprehended this palace guarding absolute art could not even comprehend it at the void god origin birth realm. One could see how difficult it was. That Tao of sword genius relied on the second sword at the ruler realm to sweep across all void gods at the origin birth realm, easily killing ordinary void gods. He could even fight against those at the void unity realm. Naturally, other than that person, there was no one else who could grasp the second sword at the ruler realm. This sword technique was stronger with each sword. The final 13th sword was also worthy of its name. It could shatter a sacred world into pieces. Being in existence at the final realm of the laws and profound mystery system, Forefather Tian, you had created 3 palace guarding absolute arts. He was so powerful that he was relatively famous across the 5 great sacred worlds. Others like Ancestor Bone, who were similarly at the final realm of cultivation, were weaker by an entire level. According to the cultivation realm, void gods were split into 3 levels. They were the origin birth realm, unity realm, and primal chaos realm. In a vast primal chaos void and sacred world, most void gods were at the void origin birth realm. The majority of void gods were at this level. Comparatively speaking, existences at the unity realm were very rare. Primal chaos realm? Under the situation where the final realm of cultivation did not appear, they were the most terrifying existences. Primal chaos realm was also a realm that the Lake Heart Island Master obtained in the cosmos. It was simply unfathomable. Without facing powerful enemies to temper himself, and without sufficient guidance, the Lake Heart Island Master reached the primal chaos realm within the cosmos. Even Void Walker Guqi was dumbstruck. Even the creator of the cosmos, Forefather Tianyu, did not expect this. And beyond that, that was the final realm of cultivation, Cosmos God. Cosmos gods were not divided into levels. Reaching the Cosmos God realm was the final realm of all systems. Their bodies were like a cosmos. Just like the laws and profound mystery system, the inner world had transformed into a cosmos. Hence, Any casual move of theirs could gather the energy of the entire cosmos. To them, destroying a cosmos was as easy as raising their hand. Existences at this level were the final realm. There were very few of them. The number of cosmos gods in each of the 5 great sacred worlds could be counted with one's fingers. Like the ancient sacred world, there were only 2 cosmos gods. Reaching this level of strength, it was rare for them to act, because the moment they did, it would be a huge matter. It was even normal for them to destroy a sacred world. Dongbua Shui Ying diverted a strand of his concentration to control the void. He proceeded with the ultra-long distance maneuver through the void. His entire being was in a state of maneuver at all times. Not just the starting ground or the Void Walker inheritance. Both gave him the complete primal chaos void diagram, of which his hometown cosmos was naturally marked out. Knowing the location of his hometown cosmos and ascertaining the direction of the ancient sacred world, Dongbua Shui Ying naturally knew where he should head towards. As he traveled at an ultra-high speed, 99% of Dongbua Shui Ying's concentration was placed on comprehending the less than 13 apocalyptic swords. After all, this was absolutely one of the apex absolute arts in the laws and profound mystery system. He had barely obtained it, and naturally, he was doing his best to comprehend it. According to his estimations, it would take him more than 2 billion years to reach the 7-star oceanic sacred world if his journey was smooth. That was considered close. The 7-star oceanic sacred world was the closest sacred world to his hometown cosmos. Naturally, the prerequisite was that his journey was smooth. This primal chaos void was filled with all sorts of dangers. Even if he could survive, he would usually be delayed. Chapter 795. Because he was a void walker, it was much easier for Dongbua Shui Ying to travel in the primal chaos void than most void gods. He could easily sense some troubles from afar and evade them easily. But the journey was indeed lonely, and he rarely saw any living beings. Those he could sense from afar were usually void creatures. Void creatures were creatures born in the primal chaos void. They had all sorts of shapes and sizes, and there were even some rare humanoid void creatures. Void creatures that could be born in such a vile environment were innately powerful. Most would reach the strength of true god rulers the moment they reached adulthood. Furthermore, their bodies were exceptionally suited to survive in the primal chaos void. But because they were innately powerful, it was hard for them to improve. After all, their strength came from their innate talents, and most of them did not know how to cultivate. Even if they obtained the cultivation method, it was hard for them to improve. Like the 100 leading howls he once fought at the starting ground, it was originally a void creature. Like the creator of the Void Walker system, and also the creator of the Walker's hidden secret, Void Primogenitor, he was also a life form born in the primal chaos void, and was also a type of void creature. But his talent was much more heaven-defying. Currently, he was one of the 3 cosmos gods within the Eastern Unicorn sacred world of the 5 great sacred worlds. In terms of strength and status, he was slightly higher than forefather Tianyu, who, as he continued traveling through the primal chaos void, Dongbua Shui Ying spent most of his time comprehending the less than 13 apocalyptic swords. Because he had left the cosmos after obtaining the palace's ultimate art, he had only begun to comprehend it along the way. He had originally believed that with his own experience and comprehension ability, especially since he had cultivated in seclusion for 1 billion years after becoming a ruler and had accumulated so much, and he was very confident in his comprehension ability, it shouldn't be difficult for him to learn the first sword. But in reality, over 50 million years, and I have yet to learn it. Dongbua Shui Ying shook his head helplessly. Even though I have comprehended more than half, there are still some bottlenecks I have yet to comprehend. If there were an opponent to fight with me, I might be able to discover the profound mysteries of this sword technique faster. Even though it was a sword technique, the Daos were interlinked. After learning the first sword, it was much easier for him to transform it into a spear technique. However, it did help me a lot in comprehending the Slaughter Dao. Dongbua Shui Ying was still very happy. Even though he did not completely understand the first sword of the 13 apocalyptic swords, it allowed him to have a more thorough understanding of the Massacre Dao and a more solid foundation. Just as Dongbua Shui Ying was trying to comprehend the palace's ultimate technique, the vast chaotic void in front of him suddenly twisted. Not good. Dongbua Shui Ying's face changed drastically. He hurriedly tried to use the void evasive maneuver to escape. However, the surrounding void energy was completely distorted, and he couldn't control it at all. At this moment, he was like a tiny ant trapped in a whirlpool. No matter how he struggled, it was futile. As for flying, the surrounding void energy was distorted, making it difficult for him to even move. Looks like we're in trouble. Dongbua Shui Ying did not panic at all. Just like how the ocean would have tides and whirlpools, the void of chaos would have some anomalies as well. However, with the Voidwalker's survivability, most of them would be able to survive. It was just that sometimes they would find themselves in a predicament. For example, being sucked into a certain sealed void. Everything was possible. The surrounding primal chaos void, which could be filled by a million cosmoses, was distorting. Everything was collapsing towards the center, and at the center of the collapse, a colorful halo could be seen. That is, Dongbua Shui Ying was also following the collapse of the primal chaos void. He was being sucked toward the center. The closer he got, the clearer he could see. At the center, there were many layers of colorful spatial folds. It was as if different spaces were being folded and connected here. Void corridor? Dongbua Shui Ying recognized it. Void corridor. It was a resonance formed between different regions of the vast primal chaos void. It was collapsing and connecting with one another. Many regions that were extremely far away from one another were connected at this moment. There were some powerful cultivators who could form a resonance even though they were separated by a great distance, allowing them to travel from one location to another. Even if the distance between two sacred worlds was far, they could travel there instantaneously. But to achieve this, one had to have a harsh requirement on their combat power and cultivation system. For instance, the laws in profound mystery system, the ancestor mother religion system, and other cultivation systems could not achieve this even if they reached the pinnacle. Every system had its own specialties. Only unique cultivation systems that had reached an extremely high level could achieve this. And now, such a scene had appeared naturally in the primal chaos void. I'd rather it not appear. Dongbua Shui Ying might be startled, but he felt helpless and uneasy at the same time. Void corridor. It might send him to the boundary of the sacred world, but at the same time, it might send him into a predicament. It might even send him into a terrifying place. It depended on his luck. I hope I'm not too unlucky. Dongbua Shui Ying was holding onto a talisman. Being a golden-robed disciple, he had 3 life-saving talismans. The Great Void Heaven Temple placed great importance on the safety of the golden-robed disciples. If they met with a predicament they could not resist, the life-saving talismans would greatly increase their chances of survival. Wah! The void distorted and collapsed, causing the incomparably tiny Shui Ying to similarly distort and collapse into that colorful void corridor. Dongbua Shui Ying could only feel the surrounding space being squeezed and pulled. The flow of time was also changing strangely. His surroundings were filled with colors. Dongbua Shui Ying could not control his body and could only drift along with the flow. He was praying in his heart, I shouldn't be that unlucky. I should reach another location normally, and the chances of me falling into a predicament should be very low. He was consoling himself. The void corridor, which had been distorting and unstable, finally collapsed. Shui Ying, who was stuck in one of the regions, along with the collapse of Voidfold, had regained its normal primal chaos void. The surrounding void gradually regained its normalcy. The originally distorted primal chaos void gradually calmed down and regained its calm. Dongbua Shui Ying looked in all directions with slight astonishment. It was a vast expanse. The cosmos that he could barely see in one direction was no longer there. I'm no longer in my previous position. Dongbua Shui Ying did not find it strange. If he could return to his original position after passing through the void corridor, that would be a miracle. The most crucial thing now is to figure out where I am. Dongbo Shuiying pondered. Even though he could deduce the direction of the ancient sacred world, it was useless to just know a direction. He had to find a point of reference. Fortunately, the void map left behind by my teacher Guqi is extremely complete. The 5 great sacred worlds are marked out in detail. Let's begin. Dongbo Shuiying casually chose a direction before moving through the void. He had already made up his mind before leaving his hometown. After all, there would always be some twists and turns along the way. As long as he was alive, everything would be fine. And then, very soon, Dongbo Shuiying discovered a huge land in the distant primal chaos void. His eyes brightened. Primal chaos land? The most primitive ancient sacred world had once exploded due to a great war. Some of the fragments had turned into cosmos, and some had turned into smaller primal chaos lands. Naturally, existences at the void god primal chaos realm had the strength to create a primal chaos land. The primal chaos land was sufficient for the life forms within to reproduce and survive. But it was relatively weaker in terms of protection. The cosmos forbade all external void gods from entering. But the primal chaos land did not forbid it, because those who could travel in the primal chaos void were usually at least void gods. It was rare for someone like Guqian Luo, who drove the primal chaos flying ship, or someone like Dongbo Shuiying. Void gods could not enter the cosmos either. In the vast primal chaos void, there were many cosmos, and one could not tell the difference on the surface. Thus, they did not have any special names. Instead, it was the primal chaos land that could be entered. Thus, most would have a name. Let's go and see what this primal chaos land is called. Once I know its name, I will know where I am currently. Then, I can ascertain where I should go next. Dongbo Shuiying rapidly descended, but as a precaution, he used the less than 3,000 incarnations technique, creating an incarnation. His true body followed behind in the dark. Chapter 796. Within the primal chaos land, many life forms were reproducing and cultivating here. Quick, quick, quick. Hurry up. A group of attendants rapidly entered the dark palace hall. There was currently a monster that could barely transform into a humanoid sitting on top of it. He was currently looking downwards. After the group of attendants entered, they waved their hands. At that moment, many cages appeared in the palace hall. Some of the cages had a group of humans, some had a group of beasts, and some had some plant life forms. But there was a common point. All of them were at least at the world deity level, though their strength had been sealed. Master, the food has been sent. These attendants were slightly terrified. And then, the monster sat on top of it. It opened its mouth. A cage directly flew over. As it flew, it started shrinking before turning into a small that flew into its bloody mouth. After eating it, its abdomen wiggled. The karma is gone. These attendants were all at the ordinary powerful existence level. They could sense that those who entered had lost their karma, and could not help but feel sorrowful. It was just that they did not dare to reveal any strange expressions on their faces. The monster continued eating with ka-cha sounds. Humans, beasts, plants, all sorts of cultivators were swallowed into its stomach. Halfway through eating, he suddenly looked up. There is actually an outsider. So, he immediately teleported through the void and disappeared. These attendants let out a sigh of relief, but they could not help but look outwards. They were powerful existences and could see through the obstruction of the void to the distant scene. That was a black-robed teenager descending on this primal chaos land. An outsider? A human? The attendants were all excited. Those who roam the primal chaos void are usually void gods. Furthermore, looking at his appearance, those monsters would prefer to maintain their ugly heads and ugly scales even after turning into a humanoid form. This outsider should be an ordinary cultivator. We have hope. He is here to save us. These attendants looked at each other. They were excited and uneasy at the same time. They had even started spreading the news in the dark. Many powerful existences amongst the cultivators on this primal chaos land received a piece of news. A powerful cultivator had descended from the primal chaos void, and it was possible that he would be fighting with those void monsters. They might be saved. In their hearts, they understood that the chances of them being saved were extremely low because experts would not easily risk their lives for strangers. At the same time, they knew how frightening these void monsters were. Even if the one who came was a void god, the possibility of him saving them was very low. But no matter how low it was, there was still hope. Their days were dark and hopeless. Now that they could see a glimmer of hope, it was enough to make them look forward to it excitedly. The moment Dongbua Shui Ying arrived, he could feel an invisible ripple. Not good. There's an alarm array. I'll be discovered the moment I enter. Dongbua Shui Ying understood this. Fortunately, it was only his incarnation that he revealed to the outside world. At this moment, his true body had also released his senses towards the void, instantly enveloping the entire void land. Dongbua Shui Ying was puzzled. This primal chaos land had countless ordinary life forms. There were mortals, transcendents, deities, world deities, and even true gods. However, there were actually many world deities and even true gods being imprisoned. At the same time, the strongest one was actually a group of void creatures. There were a total of 16 void creatures. Oh, there was also a dazzling and vast palace that had an extremely formidable array. Even with his void senses, he could not penetrate through it at all. The void creatures have entered the primal chaos land and are ruling over this place? Dongbua Shui Ying thought, but why are they imprisoning those cultivators? The void creatures were intelligent, and it was not strange for them to occupy a primal chaos land. But most of the time, they would get along well with them. Hoo. The surrounding void rippled, and figures appeared one after another. They were all void creatures that had appeared directly through the void. They had now barely transformed into human forms, and some of their sharp claws, scales, ugly heads, and other special features were still retained. They were all staring at Dongbua Shui Ying. Their eyes were emitting light. I've been roaming in the primal chaos void and happened to pass by this place. That's why I'm here to pay a visit. Dongbua Shui Ying chuckled. In his heart, however, he was becoming more alert. After the void creatures become more intelligent, they would usually get along with the cultivators. But when they see me, their gazes seem strange, as if they are looking at prey. Oh, you're here to pay a visit? A total of 6 void creatures appeared. One of them was a tall and thin void creature. You are a ruler, yet you are able to roam the primal chaos void? Are you relying on external objects or some special movement technique? It isn't good for you to ask about such a secretive matter during our first meeting, right? Dongbua Shui Ying frowned. The reason why I am here is because this is a place that has not been marked on my void map. Thus, I would like to ask, where is this place? A ruler brat dares to be so arrogant. Let's eat him. Whoever kills him first will be the one to eat him. These void creatures were already discussing amongst themselves. They did not conceal their thoughts at all. If it was a void god who came, they would still be slightly vigilant. As for a ruler, they were not afraid. Dongbua Shui Ying felt puzzled inwardly. He could determine that these 6 void creatures in front of him were at the true god-ruler realm. Yet they dared to disregard his incarnation. His incarnation was also at the ruler realm. Unless there were other void gods in the dark. Dongbua Shui Ying immediately thought back to that chain of palaces which he could not penetrate through. Who? An unfamiliar void creature suddenly appeared by his side. A pair of sharp claws immediately enveloped over, causing the other 6 void creatures who were still discussing to become anxious. You actually dared to be the first. This is the region we are in charge of. This is our prey. Whoever kills him first will be the one to eat him. That unfamiliar void creature was entirely black, and its surface was faintly translucent. His pair of translucent claws were extremely sharp too. A spear appeared in the hands of the black-robed Dongbua Shui Ying. The tip of the spear was covered in a black light. Even though this was just an incarnation, Dongbua Shui Ying had left behind the most destructive offensive technique of the Voidwalker lineage, termination energy. After all, the incarnation was condensed from energy. It was not as strong as the true body, and could only display some laws and profound mysteries techniques. Pooh! He immediately struck out with his spear. The spear's shaft spun and rolled out. The translucent void creature felt that the spear in front of him was very strange. The spear's shaft was constantly spinning, and the trajectory of the spear's tip was constantly changing. He was not confident that he could block this spear for a moment. Pooh! The tip of the spear instantly pierced 125 holes on the body of the void creature. The destructive power contained in the spear and the destructive power of the termination energy instantly caused serious damage to this semi-transparent void creature with an extremely strong vitality. If it had a weak vitality, it would have died. Dongbua Shui Ying's hands did not stop. At the same time as he pulled out his spear, he similarly pierced out with his spear. That heavily injured, translucent void creature could only cry out, "Save me." At the same time, its body began tunneling into the void. But in terms of control over the void, these void creatures that relied purely on their innate talent could not compare to the Voidwalker Dongbua Shui Ying. The spear directly pierced through the void, piercing through the body of this void creature once again, creating another 125 holes. This time, this void creature was instantly killed. This caused the other void creatures in the distance to be dumbfounded. Dead? Their comrade died, just like that? The first sword of the 13 Armageddon swords is too weak. Logically speaking, I should only be able to pierce through one hole. But I can't even stabilize the spearhead. Under the instantaneous burst of power, the spearhead actually pierced through 125 holes. Dongbua Shui Ying glanced at the items left behind by the dead void creature. This is my first battle after entering the primal chaos void. The feeling of using the first sword of the 13 Armageddon swords to kill the enemy was much more satisfying than burying his head in cultivation. Some of the powerful existences in the primal chaos land raised their heads and watched nervously. They were yearning, incomparably yearning, hoping for a miracle to happen. Within the chain of palaces that Dongbua Shui Ying found hard to detect. Within one of the palaces, the black-scaled void creature that was lying in a meditative position breathed out from his nostrils. His cold eyes were currently observing the happenings in the outside world. Trivial matters like guarding and welcoming outsiders were handled by his subordinates. With his status and identity, how could he easily take action? Big brother, looks like these fellows are still unable to deal with this outsider ruler. I'll go and deal with him. The black-scaled void creature spoke. His voice rumbled and transmitted to a hidden palace in the depths of the chain of palaces. Okay, the deep voice replied. It's been a long time since I ate a ruler. There are too few of them. The black-scaled void creature flew out of his palace with some interest. Chapter 797. The 6 void creatures that originally wanted to surround and attack Dongbua Shui Ying were currently in a state of panic because that mysterious black-robed young man had easily disappeared from their vision before sneaking up on them. Furthermore, the power of his spear technique was great. Even though they tried their best to defend against it, they were not his opponent. PFFF, PFFF, PFFF. The spear spun and rolled out, the tip of the spear instantly piercing the bone armor on the chest of a void creature. The bone armor had natural engravings, causing the spear to barely be able to pierce through it, but this time 119 holes were instantly pierced through. There is really some improvement. Dongbua Shui Ying felt joy in his heart. The instantaneous power of this spear is too strong. The spearhead is slightly messy, and I can't perfectly condense all the force into one. The scattered force and the termination energy attached to the spearhead could heavily injure the void creatures. If he could perfectly condense the force into one, even if he did not rely on the termination energy, the power of his spear technique could reach another level, allowing him to fight against void gods of a higher realm. Again, This incarnation of Dongbua Shui did not display his domain because he wanted to temper his spear technique and learn the first sword of the Great Void Heaven Temple Absolute Art, the 13 Apocalyptic Swords. By then, coupled with the huge advantage of the Void Walker system, killing ordinary Void Gods would be easy for him. But the prerequisite was that he had to learn the first sword. Not good. Dongbua Shui suddenly felt his heart jolting. His true body could sense the void, and he discovered a terrifying existence coming out from that group of palaces that he could not see. Following that, the other party tore through the void and arrived here. That terrifying aura was unquestionably that of a void god. A group of trash. A voice boomed in the surrounding void. An enormous black-scaled creature coiled appeared. The remaining 5 void creatures were both startled and delighted. One of their leaders had arrived. They were saved. The black-robed Dongbua Shui stood in midair with his spear in hand. He looked at the coiled black-scaled creature in front of him. Judging by its appearance, there are no records of it in my intelligence reports. It should be a lower-graded void creature. There were many different types of void creatures, and there were differences in their grades. Just like the pioneer of the Void Walkers, he was said to be the pinnacle, born to be the leader of countless void creatures. But Dongbua Shui did not dare to be careless. Even if they were of a lower grade, void creatures had an advantage in terms of their bodies as compared to other life forms in the cosmos. Furthermore, those who broke through the bottleneck to the Void God realm were not easy to deal with. Sovereign, there was a trace of interest in the black-scaled creature's cold eyes. He spoke with a booming voice. Your strength is not bad. You are much stronger than the idiots of this chaos land. I will give you a chance. Use your strongest attack. If you can surprise me, I might spare your life. Enslaving the countless lives of the entire primal chaos continent and wantonly devouring them, you have violated a taboo. Dongbua Shui shouted coldly. Do you know what awaits you if the stronger cultivators find out about this? Many of the surrounding regions have been occupied by us. Why would we be afraid of you cultivators? The black-scaled creature sneered. Shui was startled when he heard that. Quite a few superpowers believed that wantonly devouring the innocent was a taboo, and the moment it was discovered, they would be killed without mercy. But even amongst the high and unparalleled cosmos gods, there were some extremely wicked cultivators. Furthermore, they were not united. If they were united, the most primitive ancient sacred world would not have exploded because of the Great War. Thus, those who violated the taboo would be killed without mercy. Only a few superpowers were carrying out this taboo. There were also some experts who abhorred evil and followed this taboo. But now, many of the surrounding regions have been occupied. This meant that it was not a minority of void creatures who were too mad. Instead, they had formed a superpower with a backer behind them. Brat, do it. If you don't, you won't have the chance anymore. The black-scaled creature said. The black-robed Dongbua Shui expression sunk. At that moment, he released the slaughter domain in all directions with him as the center. This was the fusion of the Tao of Ripple and Tao of Slaughter. Even though his incarnation could not control the void, the power of the slaughter domain was sufficient to cause the expressions of the few remaining void creatures to change. The body of the black-scaled creature suddenly emitted many circular black ripples. The black ripples easily suppressed the slaughter domain. Too weak. Too weak. In front of Void God, you're still too weak. The black-scaled creature sneered. Dongbua Shui was inwardly startled. Such a powerful law domain. He had fought with the 100 Leading Howls before. The 100 Leading Howls was indeed a weaker void god chosen by Forefather Tianyu. Even though he could not control the void, the pure slaughter domain could not resist at all. If not for the other party restraining himself, he would have been suppressed to death with a single domain. His strength is stronger than the 100 Leading Howls. This should be considered the strength of an ordinary void god. Dongbua Shui thought. Dongbua Shui disappeared into the mirage world. He followed the mirage world and closed in on the black-scaled creature. Here. The black-scaled creature was slightly interested. Through the law domain, he discovered that the cultivator was approaching him from another level of the world. This concealment technique is quite formidable. A spear pierced out from nothingness. The spear body revolved as it pierced out. The spearhead was emitting a black light. The black-scaled creature did not resist when he saw that. He allowed the spearhead to pierce into his body. Chi, the spearhead pierced out uncontrollably for a total of 119 times, yet not a single white spot could be seen on the body of the black-scaled creature. His body is stronger than the 100 leading howls too. Donghua Shui Ying deduced. You are too weak. The black-scaled creature shook his head. Donghua Shui Ying persevered and continued piercing out with his spear. 118 times, 113 times. Those scales that were filled with toughness and had many mysterious inscriptions on the surface were extremely hard to pierce through, yet it forced Donghua Shui Ying to adjust his spear technique. The black-scaled creature sensed for a moment before shaking his head. So weak. Who? He abruptly extended his claws. Every single claw was as sharp as a saber. The surface of the claw was shrouded in black fog. As it clawed out, it forced its way into the mirage world. Even though its power was weakened within the mirage world, it still landed on the body of the black-robed Donghua Shui Ying. Donghua Shui Ying might be using his spear technique to defend against it, but in the face of this vast power, it was much more terrifying than when his true body was at the 20th level of Walker's hidden secret. His body was instantly disintegrated. Nevertheless, this terrifying power was controlled perfectly. It actually wanted to protect the soul within Donghua Shui Ying's body and capture him alive. You are delusional. The strand of consciousness within the incarnation transmitted a message. Closely following that, it took the initiative to disintegrate. This was after all an incarnation. If he did not take the initiative to disintegrate, the other party would be able to see through him. The moment the incarnation died, the weapons and other treasures were immediately expelled from the mirage world. It was Donghua Shui Ying who took the initiative to give them up. The black-scaled creature shook his head and sneered. So weak. He can't even injure me. Second Commander, you have already stepped into the void god realm. How can a puny ruler compare to you? The other 5 true god ruler void creatures were flattering him. Stepping into the void god realm was an extremely difficult hurdle for void creatures. After all, they were born with the ability to reach the ruler realm. And to reach the void god realm, they had to cultivate. I originally wanted to eat his soul. Who would have thought that he would take the initiative to commit suicide? The black-scaled creature snorted. He then tore through the void and left with a who. This kind of cultivator with a weak body was only attracted to his soul. Quick! Let's split the treasures together. Those 5 void creatures immediately began dividing the treasures left behind by the incarnation of Donghua Shui Ying. Of these treasures, some were obtained from the 2 void creatures he killed previously. Donghua Shui Ying did not care about these treasures. He temporarily feigned his death so as to lower the enemy's guard. But the natives of this primal chaos land and those powerful existences who had transcended were watching this battle from afar. Even though they felt that the hope of saving the other party was slim, they were still looking forward to it, because they had stayed in the darkness for too long. That was a piece of darkness with no hope at all. It's over. He is ultimately a ruler and is far from being the opponent of that void god monster. The hearts of these powerful existences had completely fallen into a bottomless abyss. The strongest amongst them was only at the Paragon realm. As for the rulers, their strength had long been sealed and imprisoned. Facing this group of void creatures that came from the primal chaos void, they could not resist at all. The weakest amongst this group of void creatures was a true god ruler, and the strongest was a void god. Void gods against true gods, it was simply a massacre. One had to know that even the extremely precious Void Walker inheritance could not defeat a void god after cultivating it to the limit of the ruler realm, the 20th level. One had to cultivate in other systems before it was possible. In the holy ground of the laws and profound mystery system, the great void heaven temple, only the most dazzling golden-robed disciple with the highest talent could kill a void god. Killing a void god was too rare, and not even 1 in 10,000. Only a holy ground like the Great Void Heaven Temple could barely give birth to a dozen or so such monsters. This cultivator that came from the primal chaos void is still too weak. It's a pity that he has died too. There's no hope. There will never be any hope. These powerful existences felt sullen and unwilling in their hearts, but they were still enduring. Those who could not endure had either committed suicide or sent themselves to their deaths. Those who survived were all silently enduring, hoping that hope would descend upon them in this endless night. Within the mirage world, the white-robed Ying was currently standing here. He was extremely confident of his concealment techniques, other than the mirage world and controlling the void. More importantly, he had 3 survival talismans as a golden-robed disciple. One of the talismans was used to conceal his aura. The moment he concealed his aura, most void gods would only be able to discover him at the primal chaos realm. Very few Unity Realm experts who specialized in scouting could discover him too, but it was practically impossible for ordinary void gods to discover him unless they had some mysterious treasures. Actually, these void creatures who did not specialize in their realms could be concealed using the mirage world and controlling the void, much less with the talismans. He is very strong. Dongbua Shuang thought. He is stronger than the 100 leading howls. My incarnation has a weak body. If I were to fight with my true body, the gap in strength between us wouldn't be so exaggerated. With the advantage in the realm and the void god weapon, Dongbua Shuang thought, it shouldn't be a problem for me to fight against him, but the possibility of killing him is slightly lower. Furthermore, I know too little about them. Dongbua Shuang looked in a certain direction. Through the void, he could see a chain of palaces. This chain of palaces was something he could not see through at all. Treasure Spirit, I'll have to rely on you to investigate. Dongbua Shuang transmitted. Master, it's just a small matter. Leave it to me. The Black Gourd Treasure Spirit said confidently, but you have to stay closer to that chain of palaces. As long as you are within my scouting region, I can even clearly see through their combat power. Dongbua Shuang revealed a grin. Very good. Today was the first chapter. Chapter 798. With the help of the life-saving talisman, Dongbua Shuang executed the void evasion. Compared to those void creatures, his execution was much stealthier, as though he was one with the void. The primal chaos land was only so big, but in the blink of an eye, Dongbua Shuang had arrived at the periphery of the chain of palaces. Weapon Spirit, are you able to investigate now? Dongbua Shuang asked. Without knowing anything about the enemy, he did not dare to enter recklessly. That's enough. The entire palace complex is within my detection range. The Black Gourd Treasure Spirit transmitted. Woo! It is fortunate that you did not barge in. There are a total of 3 void god level void creatures within this group of palaces. 3 void gods? Dongbua Shuang felt his heart twitching. The 3 of them are talking about you. Let me listen carefully. The Black Gourd's artifact spirit was silent for a moment before saying, Master, the one who fought with you just now is the 2nd leader. His strength should also be ranked 2nd. 3rd commander and 2nd commander are close to each other, and the great commander soul is much stronger, though they are both ordinary void gods. Dongbua Shuang pondered silently. The great leader seems to be very concerned about your background. He has already given the order to start investigating the items you left behind. The Black Gourd's artifact spirit said. You're quite cautious. Dongbua Shuang shook his head and smiled. Did you find out what this chaos land is called? You know the name. Only then did he know which part of the void map this chaotic land corresponded to. No one talked about it. The various buildings and items in the palace complex were also unable to determine the name of this primal chaos land. The artifact spirit said helplessly, Right, Master, the 3 leaders are all swallowing lives. I can tell that they must be practicing the most stupid devouring cultivation system. Devouring type? Dongbua Shui Ying's eyes were filled with anger. The 5 great sacred realms, the vast primal chaos void, and countless universes. There were many different cultivation systems, but there were not many that could lead to the ultimate. After all, in order to reach the final realm, one had to first be verified by a senior. And the number of cosmos gods recorded in history was pitifully few. Naturally, there were not many cultivation systems that led to the final realm. Among them, the simplest system was the devour system. The devour type was to devour everything and fuse it into one's own body. It could devour all kinds of rare treasures and even the souls of living beings. It could even devour the universe. There were 2 key points to this system. The first was the increasingly complex devouring technique. Devouring a normal life form and devouring a void god weapon naturally required different techniques. The other key was that one had to be able to absorb and convert what one had devoured into their own. This conversion and absorption method was also different for different levels. But from the most basic to the void god unity realm, devour class cultivation techniques were easy to obtain. That was because the creator of the devour class cultivation technique, Jiezu, had taken the initiative to publicize it. But if one wanted to reach the primal chaos realm, one had to rely on him. Only then would one be able to obtain more profound cultivation techniques. Devour, the easiest way to improve, was undoubtedly to devour other cultivators. Therefore, this system produced many great devils who wantonly devoured blood and also caused public anger. However, Jiezu was too strong. Amongst the final realm existences, Jiezu was vaguely ranked in the top 3. His position was unshakable. That was why the devour class system did not go extinct. Instead, more and more cultivators cultivated this system, especially those void creatures with ordinary comprehension abilities. Many of them cultivated the devour class system. The weak are food for the strong. Dongbua Shui Ying shook his head. The final realm existences were too far away from him. But his luck was not bad. After all, the Great Void Heaven Temple was very powerful. Currently, there were 2 final realm existences, Forefather Tianyu and Lakeheart Island Sword Master, guarding over the temple. No matter where he was, the moment he announced his name, it was sufficient to intimidate others. I still hope for a miracle. After serving the void creatures, a white-haired young attendant was currently seated in his own small courtyard. He felt dismal in his heart. How long will such days last? The white-haired young attendant thought. He had to maintain a calm expression on his face for fear of being discovered by the void creatures in the dark. Suddenly, the space beside him distorted, and a black-robed young man appeared in front of him. The white-haired attendant looked at the person in front of him in shock. You aren't. The black-robed young man in front of him was the Dominator expert that they saw battling with the void creatures. You really thought that I was dead? Dongbua Shui Ying laughed and teased. That was just me deceiving those fools. This place has merged with reality and illusion. That void creature that you are serving won't be able to discover you at all. That void creature was also a Dominator, but its cultivation realm was very low. With Dongbua Shui Ying's attainments in the Mirage Dao, deceiving a Dominator void creature was still a piece of cake. Oh, the white-haired young man nodded his head. His eyes were emitting light as he saw hope. He wasn't worried about being deceived. After all, their current status was that of slaves and food. Those void creatures wouldn't even bother to deceive them. Let me ask you. Dongbua Shui Ying said, what is the name of this primal chaos land? What's it called? The white-haired young man was startled. He shook his head. I don't know. I've never been out before. I don't even know what the primal chaos land we live in is called in the outside world. Dongbua Shui Ying frowned. You haven't heard the seniors of your race mention it before? According to his void scouting, the strongest cultivators in the entire primal chaos land who could still maintain their freedom were only paragons. As for true god rulers, he had discovered them. However, their powers were sealed and they were imprisoned. I haven't heard of them. The white-haired young man shook his head. However, when he saw the frown on the black-robed young man's face, he couldn't help but say, "Although I don't know, the rulers should know, but the rulers are all imprisoned. I don't know where they are imprisoned either." The white-haired young man said helplessly, "The rulers should know?" Dongbo Shui nodded lightly. He chatted with the white-haired young man about many things before breaking free and saying, "Bear with it for now. I will definitely rescue you. However, I need time. We can wait, we can wait." When the white-haired young man heard this promise, he was like a drowning man holding onto a piece of wood. He hurriedly nodded in agreement. As long as there was a sliver of hope, they would grab it firmly. Amen. Dongbo Shui nodded, and then his figure completely disappeared. The white-haired young man felt as though he was dreaming. However, his expression quickly regained its calm, and he continued to do his work as a servant. However, deep within his heart, a flame was already burning. This was the flame of hope. Within a cold, gloomy prison, the black-haired man was bound by chains. Even his spine was chained up, and his soul was sealed. The chains were also covered with layers of seals that completely sealed his power. His eyes were gloomy. He had been living in darkness for far too long. Why is it like this? This primal chaos land of ours used to be fine. Why would a large group of void creatures suddenly descend and invade us? We're the other powerful cultivators. Why did they allow this to happen? The black-haired man's eyes were filled with despair. Based on what he knew, void creatures normally wouldn't dare to do something like this, because if they stayed for too long, they would be easily discovered, and powerful cultivators would descend to kill these void creatures. However, this group of void creatures had descended for far too long, and no cultivators had ever interfered with them. In fact, based on what he knew, it wasn't just his home primal chaos land. The surrounding regions had also been occupied by void creatures. Becoming their food? Being their slaves? If they want to eat us, they could just eat us? The black-haired man felt boundless sorrow. Even I, a mighty ruler, was treated as a spoil of war and given to a void creature. The majority of rulers had become food reserves for the three leaders. Only a few were given to subordinates who had contributed greatly. This black-haired man was one of them. Who will save us? When will these days end? The black-haired man's heart was filled with despair. Who? The black-haired man suddenly felt the void in front of him distorting as a figure appeared. It was a black-robed young man. This caused the black-haired man to feel shocked. He tried to blink his eyes, but there was indeed a black-robed young man standing in front of him. "Don't worry. Nobody will know what happened here." Dongbo Shui smiled. "Are you here to save us? To save this primal chaos land?" The black-haired man hurriedly asked. "I will do my best. If nothing unexpected happens, there is an 80% to 90% chance of saving us." Dongbo Shui said. The black-haired man's eyes instantly lit up. "Do you know the name of this primal chaos land?" Dongbo Shui asked. "I know." The black-haired man immediately replied. "I heard the emperor mention it before. It is called the Chentai continent. ***. Chapter 799. Dongbo Shui immediately felt joy in his heart. He began comparing it with the void map that he knew of. The Chentai Great Land was one of the many continents in the primal chaos void. It was the closest to the Eastern Unicorn's sacred world of the 5 great sacred worlds. It would take him roughly 100 million years to reach the Eastern Unicorn sacred world with his current speed. Eastern Unicorn sacred world? Dongbo Shui thought. Who would have thought that I would be able to cross such a great distance by entering the void corridor in the primal chaos void and arrive close to the Eastern Unicorn sacred world? It seems that I can only go there first. He did not dare to think about returning to the 7-star oceanic sacred world temporarily, because it was too far away. The 2 sacred worlds were incomparably far apart. Due to the distance, there would be more dangers along the way. With his current strength, he would have to spend more than a cosmos epoch to return, even if his journey was absolutely safe. Such a long journey was sufficient to kill him. Hence, it was better for him to focus on improving his strength. The stronger he was, the easier it would be for him to return to the 7-star oceanic sacred world or his hometown cosmos. There are 3 cosmos gods and 1 Lord Lo Chung in the Eastern Unicorn sacred world. Donghua Shuiying thought, to me it is not bad. Of the 3 cosmos gods in the Eastern Unicorn sacred world, there was one who had a weaker relationship with Donghua Shuiying, and that was the teacher of Guqian Luo, Ancestor Bone. There was one who was closer to Donghua Shuiying and was even stronger than Ancestor Bone. He was also the creator of the Void Walker system, Void Primogeniture. Void Primogeniture resided in the Void God Palace of the Eastern Unicorn sacred world. According to hearsay, there were 9 million void creatures existing in the Void God Palace, with more than 10,000 void gods. They were all loyal to Void Primogeniture. The Void God Palace was a relatively benevolent superpower that abhorred evil. None of the void creatures that could enter were evil. Otherwise, Void Primogeniture would kill them. Like Donghua Shuiying, who obtained the Void Walker inheritance, there was a temperament trial too. Saber Emperor, Ancestor Bone, Void Primogeniture, and Lord Lo Chung. Donghua Shuiying admired this Lord Lo Chung the most. That was because the first 3 were all ultimate existences. As for Lord Lo Chung, he was the only one who could fight against a cosmos god at the primal chaos realm in the 5 great sacred worlds and the primal chaos void. Even in the history of the world, there were countless experts who could fight against cosmos gods at the primal chaos realm. Yes, the cosmos god realm was the final realm. The moment one crossed this step, his strength would undergo a heaven-shaking transformation. According to logic, even the most talented primal chaos existences could not fight against cosmos gods. This had almost become an iron law. But the Lord Lo Chung had broken this iron law. Lord Lo Chung was a relatively mysterious cultivator. Even though he was a primal chaos existence, he had once fought against Ancestor Bone to the point of forcing him to escape in a miserable state. Furthermore, when he fought with Void Primogeniture, he was able to suppress Void Primogeniture. One had to know that Void Primogeniture was an existence who created the 60th level of the Traveler's hidden secret. Even Forefather Tian Yu was slightly weaker than him by a level, yet Lord Lo Chung could suppress Void Primogeniture. Clearly, he could similarly suppress Forefather Tian Yu at the primal chaos realm. This was the only existence who was not a cosmos god, yet had the status of a cosmos god. Thus, the Eastern Unicorn sacred world seemed to have 3 final realm existences, but Lord Lo Chung could be considered one of them. Even the other final realm existences in the 5 great sacred worlds respected this Lord Lo Chung. According to the information provided by Voidwalker Guqi, Lord Lo Cheng's realm was extremely high, but he seemed to have violated some sort of taboo, causing him to be unable to break through to the cosmos god realm forever. Donghua Shuiying understood his position. He was confident in his heart. He asked, "Do you know how many primal chaos great lands these void creatures have occupied?" The male with messy black hair answered, "I've heard it from the monarch. The monarch is the only void god in our primal chaos great land, and he is protecting us. The monarch frequently goes out to visit his friends and has a good relationship with the void gods in the surrounding primal chaos great lands." That day, the monarch received news from a good friend, saying that more than 200 primal chaos great lands have been occupied by the void creatures. That good friend of his has currently escaped into the primal chaos void and is currently fleeing in a sorry state. The monarch asked him to hurry up and escape. Donghua Shuiying sighed inwardly as he heard that. This monarch's luck was not bad. He actually received a message from a good friend. One had to know that it was extremely difficult to transmit a message through the primal chaos void. The further the distance, the harder it would be. He had even specially constructed complex arrays and consumed a huge amount of energy just to transmit a message. Just like how he had left his hometown, he could no longer contact his hometown cosmos. This monarch should be a good friend of his and was not too far away from him. That was why he could transmit a message. When the monarch received the news, he knew that something was amiss. He originally wanted to bring the group of transcending powerful existences and escape. But the powerful existences were still gathering when the void creatures arrived. The male with messy black hair shook his head. At that time, a large group of void creatures came, and there were quite a few void gods among them. My clan's monarch was soon surrounded and devoured. Some of those void creatures left, and some chose to occupy this place for a long period of time. From then on, we became their slaves and their food. Those who could not endure it have long died. Only those of us who are struggling at death's door and still yearn for hope to descend are able to survive until now. The male with messy black hair laughed bitterly. Every once in a while, they would force us to refine an avatar for them to devour. They have treated us as an endless supply of food. If not for the strand of hope, I might not have been able to hold on any longer. Donghua Shuang nodded. To turn countless living beings on a primal chaos great land into food, one could see from this that the cosmos was much safer. It forbade void gods from entering, and even the operating laws of the cosmos would repel outsiders. Only a cosmos like the Devil Mountain cosmos with a protector dared to be tolerant towards outsiders. The cultivator cosmos was relatively tolerant too, because there was a wild black dog protecting them in the dark. Do you know the names of the surrounding primal chaos great lands? Donghua Shuang asked. I know part of it. The male with messy black hair reported another 20 over names. Donghua Shuang compared them with his own void map. That's right, it was indeed this region. Rest assured, I can guarantee that all of you will definitely be saved. It's just that all of you might have to endure for a period. Donghua Shuang said, as long as we can be saved, we can wait. The male with messy black hair nodded. Deep within a mountain range on this primal chaos great land, there was a bamboo house. Donghua Shuang was temporarily staying here. He brought along a life-saving talisman to conceal his aura so as to prevent the void creatures from discovering him. This is my first time using the communication talisman. Donghua Shuang flipped his hand, taking out a unique translucent triangular item. This was the communication talisman of a disciple of the Great Void Heaven Temple. Being a golden-robed disciple, this communication talisman of his was much more precious. Practically anywhere in the 5 great sacred worlds and primal chaos void, one could use this communication talisman to send news back to the Great Void Heaven Temple. For instance, asking for help. Even though he could not return to the Great Void Heaven Temple temporarily, Donghua Shuang would not ask for help. After all, being a golden-robed disciple, he had taken the initiative to come out and take risks. He did not encounter any danger, yet he wanted to ask for help to bring him back to the Great Void Heaven Temple. That would be a joke. Wong. Donghua Shuang activated the communication talisman, sending a message directly back to the Great Void Heaven Temple. The triangular communication talisman surged with energy, and a terrifying might brewed within it. Following that, a large amount of energy was consumed, and the communication talisman resonated with the distant Great Void Heaven Temple, sending the message over. 60% of the energy has been consumed. Donghua Shuang exclaimed inwardly. To replenish the energy of the communication talisman, with my current strength, I'm afraid I'll need more than a month. Now, that there was only 40% of the energy left, he would not be able to contact the Great Void Heaven Temple for a short period of time. Great Void Heaven Temple. This was a special space with many floating mountain peaks. Many of the mountain peaks had caves and palaces, and right in the center was the largest floating continent. On it was a chain of palaces, and there was a dazzling palace that illuminated the entire space. This was the Great Void Heaven Temple, famous across the 5 great sacred worlds. One had to know that the number of cosmos gods in a sacred world could be counted with one's fingers, and the Great Void Heaven Temple had 2 cosmos gods protecting it. One could see how stable its status was, and how famous it was. Many figures were flying. The Great Void territory is under the jurisdiction of my Great Void Heaven Temple. They actually dared to create chaos in our territory, and even sacrifice the lives of 15 primal chaos great lands to the Ancestor Mother. This is the Great Void territory. Even the true body of the Ancestor Mother doesn't dare to be arrogant in our territory. Hurry up and send Chun One's disciple over to capture them alive and send them into the Devil Refinement Prison. Those who can't be captured alive should be killed. The leading figure was wearing a luxurious black robe. His blood-colored hair was fluttering, and his eyes were filled with a terrifying coldness. Yes, Hall Master. A girl behind him respectfully acknowledged. This Hall Master in front of her was the famous Punishment Hall Master, Ancestor Devil. According to the legends, Ancestor Devil came from the same cosmos as the Sword Master. But Ancestor Devil believed in the survival of the fittest. After the Great Void Heaven Temple was subjected to the rules of the Heaven Palace, Lake Heart Island Sword Master took the initiative to arrange for Ancestor Devil to take on the position of Punishment Hall Master. At that moment, the cultivators of the Great Void Heaven Temple became much more obedient. Not many dared to casually challenge the rules of the Great Void Heaven Temple. What is happening? Ancestor Devil looked afar. There was a huge crystal wall in front of which many cultivators were discussing. It was a huge commotion. There is actually a new golden-robed disciple. Who would have thought that there is another golden-robed disciple outside of the 10 great golden-robed disciples? This is someone who passed through the trials created by the old ancestor. Starting Cosmos? This Cosmos, Sword Master and Ancestor Devil should be from this cosmos, right? Those cultivators were discussing. The 10 great golden-robed disciples. They were all monsters who could fight against those of a higher realm. The news of a new golden-robed disciple appearing had spread rapidly, much less that he came from the same cosmos as Lake Heart Island Sword Master and Ancestor Devil. Amen? Ancestor Devil heard the news too. He took a step and arrived in front of the crystal wall. When the surrounding cultivators saw Ancestor Devil, they were so frightened that they retreated to the side respectfully. Ancestor Devil might have cultivated for a short period, but he had long stepped into the primal chaos realm. He was a big shot within the Great Void Heaven Temple. Furthermore, his methods were ruthless. He was also the Punishment Hall Master, causing the cultivators of the Great Void Heaven Temple to fear him. Ancestor Devil looked up. There were many missions appearing on the crystal wall, of which the third message at the top was what he wanted to see. These missions were arranged according to their importance and time. There are at least 200 primal chaos continents in the Chun Tai Great Land. All of them have been occupied by void creatures, and they are wantonly consuming cultivators as food. This mission has already been confirmed by the Inquisitive Sky Hall. These void creatures can be killed, and those who accept the mission will receive detailed information. This mission is issued by the Golden-Robed Disciple, starting Cosmos, Dongbot Shuang. ***. Chapter 800. When Ancestor Devil saw this mission, the edge of his lips curled upwards. His smile caused the surrounding cultivators of the Great Void Heaven Temple to feel a chill. Dongbot Shuang, Ancestor Devil muttered. Our primal cosmos has finally produced a decent young fellow after us. But he actually ran to the Eastern Unicorn Sacred World. Even though it is quite far and it will be troublesome to rush over, but it has been a long time since I went out for a walk. Let me go out and have a good slaughter. At the same time, I can visit this little friend from my hometown. Ancestor Devil accepted the mission with a thought. The mission that originally appeared on the crystal wall disappeared. With Ancestor Devil's strength, he was qualified to accept this mission. Even though he was the youngest primal chaos existence in the Great Void Heaven Temple, his strength wasn't any weaker than those primal chaos existences who had cultivated for a long time. His reputation was built by killing. Who? Ancestor Devil then turned around and left. Only then did the other cultivators let out a sigh of relief. Shintai Continent. Dongbot Ying was cultivating in a low-profile manner. Even though he comprehended the Voidwalker system, Ripple Dao, and Mirage Dao, most of his attention was placed on the less than 13 apocalyptic swords of the Dao of Slaughter. After all, if the Voidwalker system could allow him to possess a terrifying body and an extremely powerful offensive termination energy, then the less than 13 apocalyptic swords would allow him to utilize the laws and profound mysteries to its pinnacle. Furthermore, the laws and profound mysteries had an extremely formidable aspect. The moment he comprehended it, his incarnations could use it too. Amen? The incarnation of Dongbua Shui Ying was cultivating the first apocalyptic sword deep in a desert. Even though his concealment techniques were formidable, the moment he practiced it, it would be easy for the enemies to discover him if they were searching for him. Hence, Dongbua Shui Ying relied on his incarnations to practice from afar. He would not reveal his true body. I have been drifting in the primal chaos void for over 50 million years, and I have comprehended half of it. There are only a few bottlenecks that I have yet to comprehend. After fighting with those void creatures for a few times, my first apocalyptic sword had a breakthrough. Now that I have reflected on the previous battles, I have another huge breakthrough. Dongbua Shui Ying revealed a look of joy. Currently, I can control my spear to form 35 holes. It was actually very normal. During his long period of meditation, he had already comprehended the apocalyptic first sword to an extremely high level. There were only a few things left that he needed to test in battle. Time flew by. In one of the cities of the Chuntai continent, in a blacksmith's yard, a cold-faced young man was striking a knife embryo with a sledgehammer. Suddenly, an invisible force seeped into the young man's body, sealing his soul. At this moment, he couldn't even kill himself. The young man's body trembled slightly as he gently put down the sledgehammer in his hand. Universe God Dong Yi. Suddenly, a gray-robed elder appeared in the courtyard. His voice was hoarse. Master has chosen you. The young blacksmith calmly turned around and looked at the gray-robed old man. The expression on his face turned into a faint smile. You've chosen me? You chose me as your food? Yes. The gray-robed elder said in a low voice. Ha ha, food. The young blacksmith laughed maniacally, and the surrounding ground trembled. Many items floated into the air and exploded. However, no matter how powerful the explosions were, they were all confined to the courtyard and did not affect the countless mortals outside. After cultivating to the stage 3-world deity realm, the end result is to become food. The young blacksmith looked at the gray-robed elder. His eyes were filled with a cold smile. You powerful existences who have transcended have also become the claws and teeth of those void monsters, capturing us for them. You are our seniors. The gray-robed elder said in a low voice. Master can cover the entire primal chaos continent with a single thought. Even if he doesn't send us, he can easily capture you with a single thought. He sent me because he is too lazy to do it himself. It's you who are afraid of death. The young blacksmith sneered. Us world deities are almost all eaten directly. As for you, at most, your avatars will be eaten. You can still cultivate them out. It's just food for a longer period of time. The gray-robed elder said coldly. Then why are we still alive? The young blacksmith's eyes were filled with madness. It's just that we are afraid of death. I hate that I can't see the day when those void monsters die. My wife was captured by you. My teacher was captured by you. My good friends are captured by you, and each and every one of them was eaten by the void monsters. Finally, it's my turn, huh? I only hate that I can't see the day when they die. The young blacksmith was like a madman. The gray-robed elder sighed softly. He extended his hand and grabbed the young blacksmith. Following that, he directly tore through the void and left. Since he was still alive, he chose to wait. He similarly hated those void monsters to the bone. His avatars were eaten alive time and time again. How could such a feeling not be painful? It was worse than death, but they still endured it. They wanted to live. In their hearts, they looked forward to the arrival of hope. However, many of them looked forward to the day when the void monsters were killed. They wanted revenge. Within the palace hall, a void creature in human form sat there. His arms were very long, and his head was thin and long. One of his eyes flickered with a cold jade light as he looked at the many cages below. Within the cages, a large number of world deities were imprisoned. Most of them were humans, but there were also some beasts and other life forms. All of them revealed expressions of anger, madness, and hatred. He, this thin and tall void creature, chuckled strangely. With a thought, these food within the cages could all let out a sound. Void monster, eat, eat. We aren't afraid. Void monster, there will be a day when a powerful cultivator will descend and kill you. We are just a step ahead. You guys will be here soon. Supreme Existence, I beg of you, please kill these void monsters. I will forever believe in you and serve you. The world deities within the cages were either cursing angrily, remaining silent, or going crazy. They hated these void monsters because they had turned the entire primal chaos land into hell. Too many of their friends, even their loved ones, life and death brothers, masters and disciples, they had all been eaten by these void monsters. To powerful existences who had transcended, the void creatures would still leave a sliver of hope. After all, devouring powerful existences would still be of some help to them. As for weak world deities, to these void monsters that were at least at the ruler level, devouring them was of no help to their strength. They preferred to see the despairing looks of these weak world deities. Woo! The thin and tall void creature squinted his eyes as he listened. I can hear fear, hatred, and despair. This is too interesting, too wonderful. The attendants by the side were all silent. The powerful existences could live on, but the weak would be eaten in batches. There were also many weaker deities, transcendents, and mortals. They would often be eaten city by city, or even country by country. This was because the void creatures felt that this was a very joyous situation. All right, it is time to enjoy the delicacies. The thin and tall void creature spoke. His face was filled with an expression of enjoyment. This was the happiest moment of his life. Pooh! A spear suddenly appeared. The spear revolved and rolled over. The tip of the spear was still emitting a cold black light, causing the thin and tall void creature to reveal a look of terror. He hurriedly waved his arm to block, and a layer of scales appeared on his arm. But this spear was several times stronger than before. PFFF, 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 PFFF. The thin and tall void creature's body was instantly pierced with 26 holes. As the number of holes decreased, its power skyrocketed. The endless slaughter energy contained within instantly destroyed this thin and tall void creature's body. At this moment, Donghua Shuang walked out from the void with a spear in his hand. He coldly looked at the throne that had been completely shattered into nothingness. Only a few items were left beside the throne. It was just a single strike. That void creature had already been exterminated. I originally wanted to cultivate to become stronger, so I had to endure and not make a move. I was afraid that if I made a move, I would infuriate these void creatures and affect many powerful existences. Donghua Shui Ying's eyes were filled with killing intent, but I was wrong. If I didn't make a move, the batches of world deities, transcendents, and mortals in this primal chaos great land would already be doomsday for them. For the lives of a small group of powerful existences, I have to watch as countless lives are being devoured. I can't do it. Then let's kill. I will do my best to kill them all. Donghua Shui Ying's eyes were filled with killing intent. Chapter 801. Among the world deities who were imprisoned and about to be eaten was that blacksmith young man. All of them stared dumbfoundedly at the high and mighty void monster that possessed monstrous power. In front of a spear, with just one move, that void monster had already died. Dead, he's dead. Finally, an expert has descended? Has a supreme existence heard my prayers? These universe deities, and even the attendants beside them, felt excited. The attendants were almighties. Their avatars were being eaten time and time again, causing them to feel pain and despair. Some of their minds were even distorted. They did not even care about their own lives. They only wished for the void monsters that they hated the most to die. And now, that void monster was really dead? Looking at the black-robed young man who walked out from the void with a spear in his hand, the attendants and universe deities were crying tears of joy. Some of them remembered the appearance of the black-robed young man in front of them. Their hearts were filled with gratitude and excitement. They were even willing to die for the black-robed young man forever. Eternal loyalty. It's him? Many of the attendants recognized that the black-robed young man was the one who had died in the battle with a group of void creatures previously. But now he was alive? The black-robed Dongbua Shui Ying turned his head and swept his gaze across the attendants, as well as the universe deities in the cages. This is the first one. With that, Dongbua Shui Ying took a step and disappeared. Ha ha! This day has finally come. This day that I have yearned for even in my dreams. As long as I can see this day, I can die in peace. It's enough, it's enough. Seeing the void monster die, it's enough. Many universe deities even shed tears. Even the attendants were trembling as they looked at the scene. Very soon, they received a karmic transmission. Brother Qian, the void monster that we are serving, was killed by a black-robed senior who was holding a spear. He is the one who fought with a group of void monsters previously. It's the same for us. Dead. That monster is dead. I can finally see this day. Indeed. Dongbua Shui Ying controlled 3 clones at the same time. This was also the maximum number of clones that he could maintain at his peak. The 3 clones moved at the same time and killed 3 void creatures at the same time. Every time, a single spear strike was all it took to kill them. Following which, Dongbua Shui Ying did not hesitate as he teleported through the void to kill the other 3 void monsters. One could say that before the void creatures could react, or even when they did not know what was going on, Shui Ying had already killed a total of 9 void creatures. In addition to the 2 he had killed when he first entered the chaotic continent, there were a total of 11. There were only 5 ruler realm void monsters left on this primal chaos mainland. At this time, the 3 leaders received a message from one of the void creatures before it died. Enemy, but that dead void creature merely reported back to the leader. The other 5 ruler void creatures that were still alive did not know about it. Shui Ying's 3 incarnations relied on the void teleportation to kill another 3 void creatures in the blink of an eye. At this moment, the 3 leaders charged out and scanned the entire primal chaos mainland. Only then did they realize that there were only 2 void creatures left. Dead. The void creatures are dead. This day has finally come. They're all dead. The void creature on my side is dead too. Mine too. The one on my side is dead too. He was also killed by a black-robed senior wielding a spear in a single move. Ha! The news spread. The powerful existences, world deities, and deities of the entire primal chaos mainland were extremely excited. They spread the news to 10 to 100, 10 to 100, a million. Countless life forms were excited. Many of them were crying tears of joy. Some even started to worship the black-robed senior that was described. If Dongbua Shui Ying were to raise his arm and call for help, countless life forms in the primal chaos mainland would be willing to follow him. Stop! You're actually still alive. The 3 leaders were enraged, although they had already discovered the 3 incarnations of Dongbua Shui Ying. But what did Dongbua Shui Ying specialize in? It was a sneak attack. Furthermore, he had an advantage in terms of void teleportation. With an even faster speed, he arrived beside the 2 remaining ruler void creatures and instantly struck out with his spear. One of the void creatures roared in fear, but he was instantly killed. As for the other one, he met with some trouble. Following a cold snort, a green lightning appeared from the void and struck towards Dongbua Shui Ying's incarnation. Before Dongbua Shui Ying's spear could pierce the enemy, the green lightning had already landed on his body. His spear technique was completely unable to defend against it, and his body was instantly destroyed. As expected of the great leader. However, it's useless. At the moment when the black-robed Dongbua Shui Ying's body dissipated, his eyes were still burning with killing intent, because at the same time, 3 incarnations appeared in the surroundings, surrounding and attacking that void creature. Incarnations, they were not afraid of death. Even if they were killed, they would be able to regenerate with a single thought. Pooh! The 3 incarnations attacked at the same time. The void monster raised its slender neck, and its pink head was filled with despair. The great commander only had time to attack one of the incarnations, and he could only watch helplessly as his last sovereign realm subordinate was killed. On this void creature's body, Dongbua Shui Ying's spear technique had reached a new realm. He could control his spear technique to a total of 12 holes. From the first void creature he killed in this battle, he had a total of 26 holes. Now he had 12 holes. Every time he killed one, these void creatures had all sorts of defensive methods. Some relied on their scales, some relied on their skin, some relied on the power of flames, and some relied on the splitting of their bodies. Because of their different defensive methods, Dongbua Shui Ying's understanding of his own spear technique grew. The apocalyptic first sword originally lacked actual combat experience, but now it had improved by leaps and bounds. Compared to the 100 holes he had when he first entered the primal chaos continent, he only had 12 holes now. Yet, the might of his spear technique had increased by more than 10 times. All the ruler void creatures were killed. After the attendants spread the news, it soon reached the world deities and deities. They were all incomparably excited and joyous. I'm truly satisfied to be able to wait until this day and see all of them exterminated. Other than the 3 strongest commanders, all the other void creatures are gone. It is already good that we could reach this stage. The attendants released some of the imprisoned sovereigns and sovereigns. They were all looking upwards, looking at the distant void. There were 3 black-robed young men facing off against the 3 commanders. Those 3 were all terrifying void gods. It is worth it for us. We are willing even if we die. But this black-robed senior is currently in danger. The 3 commanders of the void creatures will definitely not let him off. Everyone who could see this scene through the void felt their hearts tightening. They had been immersed in endless darkness. This time, a large number of void creatures were exterminated. Even though the 3 strongest commanders were still alive to the natives of the primal chaos continent, this was an unprecedented victory. They had already vented the resentment in their hearts. They were extremely satisfied to be able to reach this stage and did not dare to hope for more. They were currently worried about this black-robed senior and his safety. Many world deities also found out from the powerful existences that this senior who saved them was currently in danger. All of them hoped that this senior could survive and wished that they could use their lives to exchange for the safety of the senior. And at this moment, Dongbua Shui Ying did not feel any fear. His 3 incarnations each wielded a spear. They were scattered in the void, looking at the 3 void gods that appeared in front of them. They had different appearances, and the leading one had a pair of golden wings. He had a savage head and a pair of dark yellow eyes, was currently staring at Dongbua Shui Ying. By his side, one was the black-scale monster whom he had fought previously. The other was the largest one, with a 3-eyed humanoid void creature with hair. Since you did not die the previous time, you should be hiding. Who would have thought that you still dare to come out and seek death? The black-scale monster was slightly frustrated. It was he who killed the incarnation of Dongbua Shui Ying previously. The 3 black-robed Dongbua Shui Ying said at the same time, "The reason I came out is to kill the 3 of you." Star. Chapter 802. You are just a little true god ruler, yet you dare to say such big words? The hairy, humanoid, 3-eyed void creature boomed. There is an insurmountable gap between true god rulers and void gods. Even if there are dozens or hundreds of rulers, I can still devour them in a single gulp. The black-scaled monster by the side was filled with disdain. Even though Dongbua Shui Ying had killed a large group of ruler void creatures, the 3 commanders did not feel threatened at all. Because according to their experience, rulers wanting to fight against void gods? What a joke. Only the most apex superpowers in the legends could nurture a handful of geniuses that could be counted with one's fingers, and only then could rulers transcend realms and kill void gods. But how rare were those geniuses? Furthermore, they did not have a single void god, but 3. especially the great commander who had cultivated for a long period and was extremely powerful. Big Brother, the hairy, humanoid, three-eyed creature, turned to look at their great leader. The black-scale monster also looked at the great leader. The great commander squinted at Dongbua Shui-Ying, ordering, "Kill him." "Yes." "Haha, kill." The black-scale monster and the humanoid three-eyed creature immediately acted after receiving permission. One could see circular black ripples emitting from the body of the black-scaled monster. These black ripples swept in all directions. As for the humanoid three-eyed creature, his third eye released an unseen ripple. This ripple swept across the three incarnations of Dongbua, Shui-Ying, and in all directions. Strangely, the law domain of both parties did not interfere with each other at all. Humph. The three incarnations of Dongbua, Shui-Ying hid in the mirage world, greatly reducing the power of the black ripple. As for the unseen ripple, it was a unique soul attack. The three incarnations of Dongbua, Shui-Ying, were controlled by his true body from afar. Just his consciousness descended, and he was not afraid of soul attacks. After killing those Dominator rank void creatures, my Armageddon Fur Sword has improved tremendously. Now I can create 12 holes. The three void gods in front of me are even stronger. Fighting with them will be of greater help to me in tempering myself. I must take this opportunity to comprehend the apocalyptic First Sword. Dongbua Shui-Ying thought. He knew it himself. Without comprehending the apocalyptic First Sword, wanting to kill three void gods was simply a dream. Therefore, he had to comprehend it as soon as possible. What he lacked in the apocalyptic First Sword was actual combat. Boom! Within the mirage world, one of the black-robed Dongbua Shui-Ying teleported towards the humanoid, three-eyed creature. Immediately after, he thrust out the spear in his hand. The spear's shaft spun as it shot out. It was as if an invisible wheel of laws was crushing over. The stability of the spear's tip was somewhat difficult to control, and it trembled slightly as it stabbed towards the enemy. The humanoid, three-eyed creature extended his hand, his hairy hand grabbing at Shui-Ying's spear. The spear's body was constantly rotating, and the creature's hairy hand was unable to grasp it firmly. The spear's tip still pierced through his thick fur and skin, with some of the spear's tip penetrating deep into his body. "You can hurt me? Second brother, didn't you say that his offense is weak?" The three-eyed, humanoid creature roared. At this moment, a total of 11 small holes had appeared on the chest of the black-scaled monster. These small holes were rapidly recovering. He was also roaring, "How would I know? The power of his spear technique has greatly increased, and he can actually injure me. But this little injury isn't much. Hurry up and kill him." If one said that the two incarnations had some battle results when fighting against the second and third commanders, then, when attacking the great commander folded his golden wings and stood unmoving in the void. His dark yellow eyes swept across the incoming black-robed Shui-Ying. At that moment, with a pa, a green lightning directly entered the mirage world and struck the body of the black-robed Shui-Ying. No matter what spear technique it was, it could not resist against this strange green lightning, and in the blink of an eye, this incarnation was destroyed. But just as one incarnation was destroyed, another black-robed Dongbua Shui-Ying appeared in the distant void. Incarnations relied on the energy of the mirage world and the less than 3,000 incarnations' absolute art to form them with a thought. Because the energy one could borrow was not much, the strength of the incarnation formed was slightly weaker. It was comparable to an ordinary ruler with a weaker body and could not compare with his true body. Seeing another incarnation appearing, the great commander squinted his eyes. What a formidable, true god ruler. He has not revealed his true body from start to finish, and it is only his incarnations that came out to battle. Furthermore, the technique he used to condense his incarnations is extremely profound. Ordinary incarnations are condensed using the energy within their bodies, but he seems to be relying on external energy to condense them. Thus, it is impossible to find his true body. Like a void god, using the void god energy within one's body to condense an incarnation to battle The moment the incarnation died, one would have to use the void god energy within one's body to condense it again. By then, the enemy could completely rely on the disturbance created by condensing an incarnation to find the location of the true body. But Dongwu Shuang was different. He relied on the energy of the mirage world to condense an incarnation. Thus, it was impossible to find his true body. Since he is able to condense an incarnation with a thought, his true body must be hiding somewhere nearby. The great commander thought, if it was a primal chaos giant, he might be able to condense an incarnation forcefully from a relatively far distance away. But the current black-robed teenager was merely a true god ruler. Since he could condense an incarnation with a thought, his true body must be somewhere nearby. And that was indeed the case. The true body of Dongwu Shui Ying should be within the region of the mirage world. But the enemy could not be found. I have to find him. Otherwise, it would be pointless no matter how many incarnations I kill. The great commander was feeling vexed. The great commander tried unleashing his law domain. At that moment, countless black lightning bolts appeared in the vast space. But the power of these black lightning bolts could not be compared to that single green lightning bolt. Still, they were superior in terms of quantity and range. They swept out wantonly and even invaded the interior of the mirage world. But after sweeping through the entire place, the great commander still did not discover any movement. How do we find him? Where exactly is he hiding? He shouldn't be hiding too far away. The great commander became even more vexed. He did not cultivate the witchcraft system that researched the myriad existences, nor did he cultivate the laws and profound mystery system that was extremely profound. He was also not a void walker or some other unique system. Instead, he cultivated the simplest and most direct cultivation system, the devour class system. This system was to constantly devour and transform energy to make the body stronger. But it was too difficult to find Dongwu Shui Ying, who was hiding in the dark. The mirage world, void evasion concealment, and the concealment talisman of the golden-robed disciple. With these three great techniques, much less him, even Bloodblade, who had many profound techniques, could not find his disciple. He could not find Dongwu Shui Ying, but Dongwu Shui Ying was completely immersed in comprehending the apocalyptic first sword. Over the past 50 million years, he had been comprehending it time after time in actual combat. Actual combat could prove the results of a battle. If he continued to immerse himself in comprehending it, he might have to spend more than 10 million years before he could gradually succeed. But by combining comprehension with actual combat, the efficiency would be much faster. Big brother, this ruler's strength is increasing. The humanoid, three-eyed creature's voice boomed. There were 3 obvious holes on the surface of his body. Hurry up and do it. Dongwu Shui Ying could already control the 3 holes with a single thrust of his spear. Clearly, he was close to fully grasping the apocalyptic first sword. Even so, he was no longer at a disadvantage against the second and third commanders. If we can't find his true body, it doesn't matter how many incarnations we kill. The great commander coldly shouted. As he spoke, he swept his eyes across, and a green lightning instantly attacked this incarnation. But this time, Dongwu Shui Ying used his spear to block it. The spear revolved and rumbled, bringing with it a strange profoundness. It was as though it could penetrate through the void. The tip of the spear contained an extremely terrifying Tao of slaughter's profundities, forcefully tearing apart the green lightning. Although some of it still swept past Dongwu Shui Ying's incarnation, it was unable to destroy it. His strength has really increased. The great commander was also anxious. Dongwu Shui Ying's true body, on the other hand, was pondering over the experience he gained from tearing apart the lightning with his spear. I have to conceal the Tao of slaughter more deeply. I cannot release it too much. The feedback from the battle caused him to continuously revise his spear arts. He could already feel that he was very close to comprehending the apocalyptic first sword. Chapter 803. The great chieftain was still trying to find Dongbua Shui Ying's true body. As for Dongbua Shui Ying, as he fought with the second chieftain and third chieftain, he started to gain enlightenment. His mind was suddenly enlightened, and he finally had a clear understanding of the first sword of the 13 apocalyptic swords. This apocalyptic first sword didn't have any worldly aura or killing intent. Instead, it had an enchanting beauty. It was as if everything was simple and pure. This extreme beauty caused Dongbua Shui Ying to be intoxicated. He didn't dare to imagine that the Tao of slaughter contained within this sword was clearly not complicated. However, it was like charcoal that had undergone a bizarre transformation, turning into an incomparably beautiful diamond. The apocalyptic first sword, formed from the simple slaughter Tao's profundities, was so terrifying. This is Forefather Tian Yu's realm. It is said that it is possible to master the apocalyptic second sword in the ruler realm. However, since ancient times, only one ruler has managed to do so. Dongbua Shui Ying thought to himself, the golden-robed disciples were all monstrous geniuses. However, even if an absolute art was placed in front of them, they would only be able to master the apocalyptic first sword at the ruler realm. However, Forefather Tian Yu was able to create a second sword that was even stronger than the ruler realm. It was true that there was always someone stronger. Pooh! The spear spun and pierced out. This time, the rotation seemed very slow. However, that was an illusion. In reality, it was extremely fast. The tip of the spear was like a dragonfly skimming the surface of the water as it tapped on the chest of the black-scaled monster. Instantly, a huge hole appeared on the monster's chest. Furthermore, this hole was rapidly expanding and destroying the monster's body. It only stopped after destroying more than half of the monster's body. This caused the black-scaled monster to reveal a look of fear. The hairy, three-eyed humanoid was attacked by the two incarnations. It was the same spear technique. However, with just a simple tap, two huge holes appeared on the three-eyed humanoid's body. Furthermore, the holes were expanding rapidly. No! The three-eyed humanoid shouted in fear. "Big brother, save me! Save me!" The second chieftain and the black-scaled monster stopped fighting and started fleeing frantically. Neither of them had expected that the incarnation, which had been on par with them just a moment ago, would suddenly increase in strength and completely suppress them. They reckoned that in a few moves, they would die. What? The great leader, who had been searching for Dongbua Shui Ying's true body, was shocked. He hurriedly teleported over. "Stop! Pooh!" Another shot. The three-eyed humanoid's injuries were even more severe. His eyes were filled with despair and disbelief as he died. He had actually been killed by a sovereign, and it had only been one of the hegemon's clones. However, he should rest in peace, because the one who killed him was a golden-robed disciple of the great Void Heaven Temple. Furthermore, it was a Void Walker. Because the black-scale monster had only been attacked by one of the clones, the great leader had managed to save him in a thrilling manner. He had immediately kept the black-scale monster into his Grotto Heaven treasure. The moment he had been saved, the black-scale monster felt a sense of relief. In midair, three black-robed young men who looked exactly the same stood in midair, surrounding the great leader. The great leader's dark yellow eyes swept across the three incarnations in front of him. His eyes were filled with killing intent as he growled. "I've long heard of some legendary rulers who cultivated in several cultivation systems. Some had even become the disciple of a cosmos god, and they could kill void gods with their ruler bodies. But I've heard of them before, yet I've never seen them before. This time, I've seen them with my own eyes. They are actually able to kill void gods just by sending their incarnations. Truly formidable. I wonder which superpower you came from. Which sacred world are you from out of the 5 great sacred worlds?" "You can't guess." Dongbua Shui Ying retorted with a question. "Your incarnation is clearly very weak, yet your spear technique is so profound that it could draw out such terrifying power. Are you from the laws and profound mystery system?" The great leader asked. "I've heard that the primogenitor of the laws and profound mysteries system has fallen. Currently, The strongest is the great void heaven temple in the 7-star oceanic sacred world. Are you from the great void heaven temple? But you're a ruler. Why would you come to the eastern unicorn sacred world instead of the 7-star oceanic sacred world? It seems that I've guessed wrongly. You are from the great void heaven temple, and you have coincidentally obtained some formidable inheritance from the laws and profound mystery system? Dongbua Shuang chuckled. You seem to know quite a lot. I still thought that you know very little about the 5 great sacred worlds. You can leave. I can spare your life. The great leader coldly said. Leave? Spare my life? Why? Can you find my true body? Dongbua Shuang sneered. You can't even find my true body, so don't talk about not killing me. Furthermore, I'm afraid you can't even kill my 3 incarnations. The expression of the great leader changed. Die. Dongbua Shuang coldly roared. The 3 incarnations acted at the same time. He wasn't going to be merciful. This time, the great leader had suffered such a great humiliation, and even the 3rd commander had died. If Dongbua Shuang were to leave just like that, when the great leader vented his anger, it was unknown how many lives in this primal chaos great continent would be implicated. Therefore, he naturally had to make a move. He had to cut the weeds and eliminate the roots. Both sides instantly clashed. The 3 incarnations walked around the mirage world, surrounding the great leader. Spear after spear attacked. The great leader finally flapped his golden wings. He directly transformed into a blurry bolt of lightning. His speed was extremely fast, and the might of his wings was extremely terrifying. Every single golden feather on his wings was extremely hard and sharp, just like daggers. Dang, 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 when the spear pierced the wings, it merely left behind some white spots. It was basically unable to pierce through. His abdomen area is much weaker. Dongbua Shuang's 3 incarnations worked together to attack the great leader, and the great leader was releasing his domain to suppress in all directions. He would occasionally release a green bolt of lightning. His wings and claws were attacking time and time again, causing the 3 incarnations of Dongbua Shuang to be helpless against him. The great leader just needed to fold his wings slightly to protect his abdomen area. He is indeed much stronger than the 2nd and 3rd commanders. Not only in terms of strength, speed, or defense, he is much stronger. Dongbua Shuang was still feeling fortunate. Fortunately, he was a devour type and could only rely on some of the most fundamental abilities. If he were a void god that relied on the laws and profound mysteries, his law domain would be even more frightening. Because they relied on the laws to become a void god, their law domain would be created according to the laws they specialized in. Their combat techniques would also be much more profound. As for those of the devour type, they were even more clumsy than those from the ancestor mother religion. Hence, even though they could not injure the other party for a moment, the 3 incarnations could easily defend themselves because the other party's attacks were too direct. Dongbua Shuang's incarnations could easily resolve them. Damn, why can't I kill him? I can't even kill his 3 incarnations. The great leader was feeling slightly anxious. He was attacking wantonly, and his power was surging. But the 3 incarnations of the human in front of him were clearly very weak, yet their spear techniques were extremely profound. Every spear could easily resolve his lightning and dissipate the force from his wings. Pooh! This was a spear with a deep violet wooden shaft. There seemed to be some ordinary patterns on the spear body, though these patterns eventually converged at the spearhead. Furthermore, the entire spear was covered in a layer of black light. It was none other than the termination energy. The spearhead was like a dragonfly skimming the surface of the water, and also like a lover's kiss. It pierced out from a void. The great leader immediately flapped his wings to defend against it, but the spearhead had forcefully pierced through those golden wings and into his abdomen. It had even penetrated through his body. He immediately kept the spear. It disappeared without a trace. It was as if he had never acted. He had completely disappeared. True body, that's his true body. The great leader's eyes widened. He looked behind him with a savage expression, yet he could not find his true body at all. Ah, that huge hole that pierced through his wings and body was rapidly expanding. It was corroding his life force, causing him to reveal a look of anxiety. He could feel death approaching. Don't you say that the laws and profound mysteries system specializes in the laws? Isn't the gap between their true bodies and incarnations too huge? Why is this one so huge? A strength that could match ordinary void gods. Determination energy that possessed a horrifying destructive power, coupled with the void god weapon that he got as a golden-robed disciple. And finally, the apocalyptic first sword. Its power naturally far surpassed that of the incarnations. No, he directly teleported through the void in an attempt to escape. Pooh! How could he teleport through the void purely by instinct against the Void Walker who had reached the 20th level of Ascendant's hidden secret? The spear pierced through his body once again. What followed was another merciless spear. Just 3 spears. The great leader, who was about to flee, fell out of the void. His body was rapidly being corroded, and a look of disbelief appeared on his face as he stared into the distance behind him. At this moment, a white-robed young man, wielding a dark purple spear, walked out from the void. His eyes were incomparably cold, and the 3 clones around him directly dissipated. True body, I've finally seen your true body. Tell me, where did you come from? The body of the great leader was rapidly being corroded. It already reached his head. Just as he finished speaking, his body completely shattered. Great Void Heaven Temple, golden-robed disciple, Dongbua Shuang. Dongbua Shui, Ying softly said. It's a pity that the great leader could no longer hear it. Chapter 804. The great commander had already died. There were some treasures left behind by the great commander floating around him. Shuang did not have the time to collect them when a black figure suddenly rushed out from one of the Eden treasures. Closely following that, it tried its best to escape. It was the previous second commander, the black-scaled monster. Escaping, the white-robed Shui Ying took a step. He evaded through the void and chased after them. The spear in his hand was sent out. Pooh! Regardless of whether it was in terms of void evading or the profoundness of his spear techniques, Shui Ying far surpassed these devour-class void creatures. No. The black-scaled monster let out an unwilling roar. However, its body was destroyed in an instant, and its ferocious face was instantly crushed into dust, leaving behind some items. The white-robed Dongbua Shui Ying snorted coldly. He had no pity for these void creatures that fed on countless cultivators. Actually, when he first left his hometown, he had a good impression of the void creatures. This was because the primogenitor of the Void Walkers was an extremely unique void creature. However, no matter if it was the void primogenitor or Dongbua Shuang, they would not show mercy to the great leader who would willfully devour lives. With a flip of his hand, he kept all the items and refined some of the Eden treasures and storage treasures. As expected, they brought all the treasures with them. Dongbua Shui Ying thought to himself. Previously, when he was investigating, he had asked the Black Gourd Spirit to investigate the chain of palaces. However, it did not find any powerful treasures. It was obvious that the 3 leaders did not trust their subordinates, and they brought all the important items with them. Communication item? Dongbua Shui Ying flipped his hand and took out a strange golden token. He frowned slightly. It is extremely difficult to send a message across the chaos void. The further the distance, the harder it is. You should only be able to send a message to the nearby chaos lands. I wonder if I've been exposed. The harvest is not small. There are so many unique items. Dongbua Shui Ying's face lit up with joy. Strictly speaking, he was still considered poor. All the precious treasures he had were obtained from his status as a golden-robed disciple and a void walker. They were extremely important and could not be traded. When he left his hometown, he had practically left everything he accumulated to Jing Xiu, Yu Qing Yao, and the others. This time, he had killed 3 void gods and had earned a huge sum. There were all sorts of strange toys, weapons, precious materials, and puppets. Unfortunately, he wasn't like his master, the Bloodblade, who studied all things. To him, these items were only for trading. The more treasures, the better. In the future, we can use them to help Jing Qiu and the others. A smile appeared on Dongbua Shui Ying's face. Half of the time it took to brew a cup of tea. In midair, a large group of cultivators from the Chuntai continent had gathered here. Leading them were the 5 rulers who had been released. There's also a group of paragons, ordinary powerful existences, and a large group of world deities. All of them were gathered here, looking gratefully at the saviors of their entire primal chaos land. Senior has saved countless beings on our great land. Yet we still do not know Senior's name. The thin black-robed ruler who was leading the group said gratefully, "I'm called Dongbua." Dongbua Shuang chuckled. Senior Dongbua. These rulers, paragons, powerful existences, and world deities all shouted out in unison. All of them were bowing respectfully. This bow was firstly because of their strength, and secondly because of their gratitude. Dongbua Shui Ying continued, "Now isn't the time to relax. All of you should understand that other than the batch of void monsters that I killed, there are more in other primal chaos lands. If the news of this place isn't exposed, the Chintai continent will be relatively safe for a long period of time. But if it is exposed, there might be danger. I'll protect all of you in the dark for 100,000 years. If I don't meet any enemies within 100,000 years, I'll leave." Many thanks, Senior. These cultivators were filled with gratitude. This Senior Dongbua saved them purely out of friendship. After all, they did not have any friendship with each other previously. It was quite amazing for him to be willing to protect them in the dark for 100,000 years. "This is all I can do. In the future, your fate will depend on yourselves," Dongbua Shuang said. Saying that, he turned around and took a step before tearing through the void to the highest point of the primal chaos land. He directly broke through the obstructions and entered the vast primal chaos void, sending off Dongbua Shui Ying with their eyes. These natives felt complicated in their hearts. Before Dongbua Shui Ying came, they were living in the darkness, and they could not see any hope. And this outstanding Senior Dong Bo, who was clearly a true ruler, came from the primal chaos void and single-handedly killed all the void creatures, including 3 void gods. Senior Dongbua has done a great favor to our Chuntai continent clansmen. Fellow cultivators, please remember it. The thin black-robed ruler said, "We will naturally remember it." These cultivators would never forget this day for the rest of their lives. The legend of Senior Dongbua was also passed down by word of mouth on this Chuntai continent. A long time later, an ultra-strong expert was born on this Chuntai continent, and he even went to pay a visit to Dongbua Shuang. But that was something that happened a long time later. Outside the primal chaos great land, Dongbua Shui Ying sat cross-legged in the primal chaos void. Relying on his perception of the void, he enveloped the surroundings of the primal chaos land. According to the location of the void map, the closest batch of primal chaos lands should be able to rush over after receiving the news. They should be able to reach within 30,000 years. Dongbua Shuang thought, if someone were to rush over, it would suffice for him to protect this land for 100,000 years. He could not protect this land forever. Everything would go according to his heart, and he would do what he should do. At the same time as he was sensing the void, Shui Ying closed his eyes and meditated. According to the guidance left behind by forefather Tianyu, the cultivation of the laws and profound mysteries lineage required one to comprehend stronger and stronger absolute arts, or even create stronger absolute arts. Constantly pursuing the limits, one's understanding of the laws and profound mysteries would deepen. Once the accumulation was deep enough, a breakthrough would come naturally. The mastery of the first sword of the 1-3 apocalyptic swords had indeed broadened Dongbua Shui Ying's horizons. He had also gained a deeper understanding of the use of laws and profound mysteries. Even when he was looking at the 21st level of Walker's hidden secret, he found that he could understand most of it now. This was actually a gradual increase in his cultivation realm. I know my own limitations. I dare not think of creating a massacre absolute art that is more powerful than the first apocalyptic sword. Dongbua Shuang thought to himself. However, I can use the profoundness of the wave Dao to supplement the first apocalyptic sword. And let's begin. Wind Ripple Path was an absolute art that Dongbua Shui Ying had created. It was a combination of the massacre Dao and wave Dao. The first apocalyptic sword was too brilliant. It was so perfect that there was no way to change it. However, using the wave Dao to supplement the icing on the cake, Dongbua Shuang felt that it was worth a try. Just supplementing the wave Dao was actually very difficult. If there was a slight mistake, it would be like drawing legs on a snake. However, Dongbua Shuang was after all an expert that created the Wind Ripple Path. He had experience with it, which was why he had the confidence to give it a try. In the blink of an eye, 100,000 years had passed. The white-robed Dongbua Shuang, who was guarding outside the primal chaos continent, opened his eyes. He did not discover any ambushers. It's time to leave. Dongbua Shuang looked at the huge primal chaos continent behind him before silently using the void evasion to leave. He maintained the void evasion for a long period of time. Over 6,000 years later, Dongbua Shuang saw another primal chaos continent. This place should be occupied by the void creatures. Dongbua Shuang's eyes were cold. These void creatures that devoured and slaughtered countless lives. All of them deserve to die. Fighting with them can be considered as training. So. At that moment, 3 black-robed Dongbua Shuang's appeared. Each of them brought along the termination energy as they charged towards this primal chaos continent. Dongbua Shuang was not foolish. He did not know the background of the enemy. Naturally, he would send his incarnations over. If there were truly terrifying existences within, his true body in the primal chaos void would be able to escape without a trace. But according to his conjectures, the chances of meeting an existence at the void God Unity realm was relatively low. Chapter 805. The moment they landed on this primal chaos land, the 3 incarnations of Dongbua Shui immediately utilized the mirage world to hide far away. Ripple. The 3 black-robed Dongbua Shui stood in midair. An unseen ripple rapidly enveloped the entire primal chaos land. His true body had been tempered by the primal chaos void energy and was the darling of the primal chaos void. And his incarnations were condensed from the mirage world energy, and their control over the void was much weaker. At this moment, the Tao of Ripple was more suitable for a large-scale investigation. There were ripples everywhere. Life had undulations, rocks had undulations, plants had undulations, light had undulations. Shui Ying could sense the endless undulations. There are 9 ruler realm void creatures and 1 void god. Dongbua Shui Ying immediately discovered. Furthermore, the many life forms on this primal chaos land are being devoured as food. During his investigation, he discovered that some powerful existences were imprisoned, and some are living as servants. As for the world deities, they did not have the usual fighting spirit and fighting spirit. Instead, they were filled with despair, dispiritedness, madness, and hatred. Why are these void creatures so daring? Why are they so arrogant? Dongbua Shuang's killing intent sword. Seeing the despair in the eyes of those who were imprisoned and about to be devoured, his anger could not help but rise. The Void Progenitor has already ordered this. The Great Void Heaven Temple, Nacrolite's Sacred Ground, and others have already given strict orders. Why are these void creatures so wantonly devouring the cultivators? Kill. The 3 incarnations moved at the same time. Actually, when Dongbua Shui used the Tao of Ripple to investigate, that void god had already sensed it. It's just that he did not care and continued sleeping, feeling that his subordinates could deal with that brat. But just a moment later, this void god knew that he was wrong. Save me. Of the 9 ruler realm void creatures under him, only 1 managed to call for help in time, and he was killed in the end. They can actually turn into many subsidiary bodies to escape. The only ones that managed to call for help were the more unique nest-like void creatures. They had actually disintegrated into tens of thousands of saplings. Donghua Shui Ying's incarnation had also cast Slaughter Domain. With his current understanding of the Massacre Dao, his Massacre Domain had also made a breakthrough, and he could kill these weaker subsidiary bodies in an instant. Hoo. The three incarnations of Donghua Shui Ying tore through the void and arrived outside the palace of that void god. The golden palace was dazzling. A four-hooved mutated beast with white hair walked out from the palace entrance. His white hair was pure and holy, and his hooves stepped on the void step by step. His pair of golden eyes stared at Shuang. "You are just a ruler brat. I did not treat you as a threat, yet you could actually kill 9 of my subordinates in such a short period. You next." The three black-clothed Donghua Shuang said at the same time. "Really?" The white-furred, four-hooved beast said coldly, "If they die, then so be it. To be able to meet a powerful ruler like you in such a boring life, it's quite interesting. You speak too much nonsense. Die." The three black-clothed Donghua Shui Ying disappeared into the mirage world at the same time. They wanted to kill the other party in close combat. The white-furred, four-hooved beast coldly said, "Inferno." Flames rose in the surrounding vast region. Every single flame was blue in color. They were like flowers, and the countless blue flames easily permeated into the mirage world, surrounding the three incarnations of Donghua Shuang. The three incarnations all displayed their spear techniques. They executed the apocalyptic first sword. Sila, indeed, they were able to forcefully break apart the surrounding blue flames. Nevertheless, there was an unseen energy permeating through. This energy was extremely cold, yet became blazing hot the moment it entered their bodies. The expressions of the three black-clothed Donghua Shui Ying changed. His incarnations were trembling. Following that chi, they shattered into pieces. Where is he? Where is his true body? The white-furred, four-hooved beast's golden eyes swept across the surroundings. At the same time, an unseen ripple swept across the entire primal chaos land. He even tried to probe the primal chaos void outside, yet he could not find anything. South, the true body of Donghua Shui Ying was originally hiding far away. The moment he discovered that his incarnations had died, he immediately used void teleportation to escape far away. Law Domain, Donghua Shui Ying was dumbstruck. He is absolutely not of the Devour class cultivation system. He should be of some other system. He actually perfected his law domain to such an extent. This realm should be at the peak of the void origin birth realm, and he should be close to stepping into the unity realm. Within the law domain, words were the law, and the cultivator could set the law. For instance, setting the law, all life forms that he wanted to kill would die instantly. Like the starting ground of Donghua Shui Ying's hometown cosmos, he had set the law, causing all those who entered to become mortals. Naturally, Lakeheart Island Swordmaster was strong enough to resist against this law. This was the power of the law. Naturally, the law could not be casually set. It required the cultivator to specialize in a certain aspect. This void god had definitely reached an extremely high attainment in the flame aspect, allowing him to reach such a degree in his law domain. It was rumored that existences at the primal chaos realm could form a huge miniature cosmos with their law domain. The domain was a miniature cosmos. Within the miniature cosmos, there were planets, starry skies, and many existences. There were also laws set by them. Those who could not resist against the laws would die instantly. My true body is stronger, and my survival capabilities are strong too. I should be able to survive. But being suppressed by the law domain, I should only be able to unleash 30 to 40% of my strength. Donghua Shui Ying did not dare to fight. The gap between them was too obvious. He was a golden-robed disciple of the great Void Heaven Temple. No matter how talented he was merely a ruler who could kill ordinary void gods. If he met another powerful void god at the origin birth realm, he could not do anything, unless he could comprehend the apocalyptic second sword that was 100 times more complex and profound. But the difficulty of this apocalyptic second sword was something that some void gods could not comprehend. In the history of the Great Void Heaven Temple, there was only a single ruler who could do so. One could see how difficult it was. This battle made Dongbua Shui Ying understand that he could only bully ordinary void gods or those who were clumsy in combat. It would be troublesome if he met someone stronger. The rest of the journey also proved all of this. In the following years, Dongbua Shui Ying continued his journey to cultivate. He then sent his incarnations to kill his way into the primal chaos lands to fight. He had killed several void gods, but it seemed that they gradually received news that the void gods had started hiding within the primal chaos lands. Those who remained within the primal chaos lands were the stronger ones. Dongbua Shui Ying had even met a void unity realm expert. The moment his incarnation descended, an unseen law domain descended, and he was directly captured alive. Fortunately, it was just an incarnation. With a thought, the incarnation dissipated. The other party used the incarnation to attack his soul. He had the protection of the godlight scripture and the Void Walker's hidden secret. Terrifying, Shui Ying understood that experts at the Void Origin Birth Realm were not people he could fight against. As for those at the Unity Realm, there was no need to talk about them. Time flowed, and in the blink of an eye, more than 3 million years had passed. Dongbua Shui Ying had only sent his incarnation over every time, and he had relied on his survival talisman to hide far away. But his reputation had also started spreading amongst the superpowers in these primal chaos lands. You are that cultivator brat who only dares to use his incarnation to fight. In the sky above a primal chaos land, 3 black-robed Dongbua Shui Yings were currently attacking a humanoid void creature. This humanoid void creature had a jade green armor. His skin was black, and he had the appearance of a male. His control of the void was not any weaker than the true body of Dongbua Shui Ying. This humanoid void creature could not kill Dongbua Shui Ying within a short period of time, but the 3 incarnations of Dongbua Shui Ying could not injure him at all. But Dongbua Shui Ying was happy to fight. He is a good opponent. I can temper my spear techniques. The 3 incarnations were frantically attacking. You can't kill me. Even a void god at the Unity Realm would find it hard to kill me. This jade green-armored black-skinned male was willing to fight. He was gaining experience from the profound battles of the rulers in front of him. He was similarly growing. Brat, not bad. You are a ruler, yet you can fight against a void god to this extent? Following that, a voice sounded. A silver-robed male descended. This was a silver-robed male. He wore strange metallic combat boots and had a saber on his back. He descended without any warning and directly clawed at that jade green-armored void god. It seemed like an ordinary claw, but strangely, the jade green-armored black-skinned male could not evade it all. He wanted to retaliate, yet his head was still grabbed. Pong, ong, poo. The silver-robed male relied on his hands and legs to trample on his opponent. He would occasionally use his knees to strike, his palms to strike, and his elbows to strike. These seemingly ordinary techniques were filled with mysteriousness that shocked Dongbua Shui Ying. The other party's combat techniques were far more profound than the apocalyptic first sword. Naturally, this silver-robed male, Dongbua Shui Ying, was able to discern that he was a void god. I can't kill you. The silver-robed male was slightly startled. You can't kill me. Even void gods of the Unity Realm have a hard time killing me. The jade green-armored void god growled. He was furious that he was being trampled on, but his body was extremely strange. There were many layers of space within his body, causing the other party's attack power to be continuously diverted away. I still can't train it. Forget it. The silver-robed male suddenly pulled out the saber on his back. Wah! The saber light flashed. It was too fast, too stunning. The 3 black-robed Dongbua Shui Ying by the side widened their eyes. He was even trying his best to borrow the Mirage world to feel this blade, but it was too fast. The degree of profoundness made him feel suffocated. But it was not impossible. He had comprehended the apocalyptic second sword before, and even though he did not comprehend it, he had some understanding of it. He felt that this blade should be an entire level higher than the apocalyptic second sword. Chong. Only then did the silver-robed male sheath his saber. Letting me use my blade will make your death worth it. The silver-robed male turned to look at Dongbua Shuang. The jade-green armored male was still standing there sneering. That blade of yours didn't. Halfway through his words, his body suddenly turned soft. His eyes dimmed, and he fell down. His body was undamaged, though his soul aura had disappeared. Some of his treasures floated out. The silver-robed male waved his hand, and those treasures were kept by him. Brat, you have guts. The silver-robed male chuckled as he looked at Dongbua Shuang. All right, I am Luo Hai. I am Dongbua Shuang. Dongbua Shuang chuckled. He had a good impression of the other party. He had finally seen another expert act against these void creatures. Chapter 806. If you don't mind, we can call each other brothers. The silver-robed man, Luo Hai, said straightforwardly. He had a heroic spirit in his bones. However, because of this personality, he was often schemed against by his good friends when he roamed the outside world. However, he didn't care about it. If he schemed against them, he wouldn't be able to be their friend anymore. Brother Luo Hai. Dongbua Shuang greeted. Luo Hai waved his hand to collect the items. He raised his eyebrows. Brother Dongbua, I killed this void creature. The spoils of war belong to me. Of course. Dongbua Shuang laughed. The next time you kill it, it belongs to you. Let's go. There are no more void creatures in this primal chaos land. Luo Hai said, All right, this is your incarnation, right? Where's your real body? I don't have Brother Luo Hai's strength. I don't dare to enter the primal chaos land. My real body is still in the primal chaos void. Dongbua Shuang said, You are really careful. Luo Hai and Dongbua Shui Ying's incarnation left the primal chaos land. They met Dongbua Shui Ying's real body outside. Shuang trusted Luo Hai quite a bit. Firstly, he was a cultivator who was willing to kill these void creatures, and that was worthy of his admiration. Secondly, Shuang was confident of protecting himself against void origin birth realm experts. It was not so easy for a golden-robed disciple from the great void heaven temple to die. When Luo Hai saw Dongbua Shui Ying's real body, he revealed a smile. A ruler was willing to meet him. This showed that he trusted him. When making friends, one had to look at the person. In Luo Hai's eyes, a ruler who dared to kill a powerful faction in order to save countless lives was someone he was willing to make friends with. You. Luo Hai suddenly widened his eyes. He looked at Dongbua Shui Ying carefully. You're actually so young? Looking at Dongbua Shui Ying's true body, and based on the soul aura that was radiating from his body, Zhang Shui Ying could roughly estimate how long he had been cultivating. Clearly, Dongbua Shui Ying was extremely young. What a loss, what a loss. And here I thought you'd cultivated for quite a long time and called you a brother. But now, it seems you're so young. Although cultivators don't care too much about age, you're still too young. What a loss, muttered Luo Hai. Brother Luo Hai, how long have you been cultivating? Dongbua Shui Ying asked with a smile. He couldn't tell how long Luo Hai had been cultivating. Even the Black Gourds artifact spirit told him, This Luo Hai, I can tell that he is at the void origin birth realm, but I can't tell anything else. He seems to be protected by some kind of treasure. Me? Luo Hai scratched his head and smiled mysteriously. How long have I been cultivating? This question is really hard to answer. Whatever, it is better if you don't ask. Even amongst void gods, my age is considered quite old. I have no choice. I can't compare with you geniuses. Do you know how much suffering I have suffered to reach my current realm? You can't even imagine it. Dongbua Shui grinned. He had cultivated for a short period, and this brother Luo Hai seemed to be someone who had spent an extremely long time to become a void god. But he was wrong. The experiences of this brother Luo Hai had far surpassed his imagination. Go, let us continue fighting on the next primal chaos land. Only by fighting can we temper our strength. Furthermore, these void creatures should all be killed. Luo Hai was filled with fighting spirit. All right, Dongbua Shui Ying was willing to follow along. Luo Hai's void-piercing speed made Dongbua Shui Ying speechless. Being a void walker who had reached the 20th level of Walker's hidden secret, he should be stronger than the majority of ordinary void gods in terms of void maneuver. But Luo Hai's speed in the primal chaos void was a few dozen times faster than him. Dongbua Shui Ying estimated that he would have to reach the 27th or 28th level of Walker's hidden secret before he could match up to brother Luo Hai. This void-piercing speed was indeed frightening. Just 900 years. Luo Hai brought Dongbua Shui Ying to another primal chaos land. Brother Dongbua, kill our way in. Luo Hai looked at that primal chaos land like a wolf looking at its prey. His gaze was different. Are you not going to investigate? Dongbua Shui Ying said, I'll first send my incarnation over to investigate and understand the actual situation. You still plan on using your incarnation? Luo Hai shook his head. There is no danger in battling with your incarnation. If you don't fight in danger, you won't be able to make your blood boil. Furthermore, the strength of your incarnation should be far weaker than your true body. Only by fighting with your true body can you deal with stronger opponents. Fighting against stronger opponents will be of much greater help to you. But it is easy for me to lose my life if I go with my true body. Dongbua Shui Ying was slightly speechless. The path of cultivation was long. Luo Hai was so reckless and did not care about danger. Yet this Luo Hai could survive until now. On the path of cultivation, survival was the most important. If he were to be so rash, he would have lost his life if he met an existence at the Void Unity realm in the previous Primal Chaos lands. You must be careful when you move alone, but you don't have to worry about it if you follow me. Luo Hai continued. This time when I came out to roam the world, I discovered that many Primal Chaos lands in this region have been occupied. I have decided to kill my way through and kill all of them within 1,000,000 years. Within 1,000,000 years? Dongbua Shui Ying was dumbstruck. And you want to kill all of them? He had only sent his incarnation in to kill, and only some of the weaker void gods could be killed. He could not even defeat the stronger ones. Furthermore, after news of his existence had spread, those weaker void gods had long gone into hiding. It was hard for him to achieve any results. But similarly, this superpower would not make a big move against a minor character like him. It was not worth it. But if Luo Hai were to wipe out everything in his path, it would easily attract the strongest expert from this superpower to appear. Rest assured, I'll protect you. Luo Hai saw that this new brother of his, Dongbua, was too cautious and did not dare to be so crazy. He could not help but hesitate for a moment before flipping his hand, taking out a piece of command token. There was a unique square Luo word on the command token. At the same time, a terrifying aura surged out. When Dongbua Shui Ying saw this command token, it was as if he was looking at an incomparably frightening blade light. This blade light was able to split apart everything. Lord Lo Chung is my father, Luo Hai said with a low voice. You should feel relieved now, right? Dongbua Shui Ying looked at Luo Hai with shock. Lord Lo Chung? Luo City Lord was at the Primal Chaos Realm, and he was ranked in the front amongst Final Realm existences. For instance, of the 3 cosmos gods in the Eastern Unicorn sacred world, Blade Emperor, Void Primoger, and Ancestor Bone, only Blade Emperor was slightly stronger than Luo City Lord. The other 2 were weaker than Lord Lo Chung, because he was at the Primal Chaos Realm, yet he could unleash such power. Therefore, in terms of combat realm, according to the information given by their master, the Voidwalker Guqi, they all believed that Luo City Lord's realm was the highest among all the experts. His status was also extremely special. His teacher Guqi did not describe much in the information. Regardless, he was filled with admiration towards Lord Lo Chung. In addition, it was said that Blade Emperor and Lord Lo Chung had a good relationship. Thus, In the Eastern Unicorn's sacred world, once Lord Lo Chung said his words, not many would dare to disobey. Lord Lo Chung is your father? Dongbua Shuang looked at this silver-robed young man with a blade on his back. He did not dare to think that he would meet someone with such a huge background. Now you can be rest assured. But unless it is absolutely necessary, I do not wish to beg my father. When Luo Hai mentioned his father, his gaze was slightly different. Since the other party had publicized this secret, that command talisman could not be faked. In addition, this place was close to the Eastern Unicorn sacred world, and Luo Hai could cultivate for so long until now. It was impossible for him to be reckless and foolish. Thus, Dongbua Shuang was willing to go crazy. So, the two of them turned into streams of light as they charged towards the vast primal chaos land ahead. Dongbua Shuang did not dare to imagine that he could sweep his way so arrogantly. Usually, he would be the first to attack the primal chaos land. If he could not deal with the other party, Luo Hai would let Dongbua Shuang fight to his heart's content before acting. Most void gods were killed by Luo Hai barehandedly. Only a few who were strong in survival or void gods at the Unity realm could force Luo Hai to pull out the blade on his back. The moment he pulled out the blade, he could fight head-on with a void god at the Unity realm, and he could even bring Shui Ying away with him. Within the vast primal chaos land, 5 powerful figures were located in different directions. They had all turned into humanoid figures. Their huge claws and tentacles were grabbing onto the wine cups as they gulped down the wine. Their auras were grand, causing all sorts of phenomena to appear in the surroundings. Some were rolling black clouds, some were roaming with lightning, and some were spreading frost. A silver-robed swordsman and a ruler white-robed teenager. These two cultivators actually dared to be so arrogant. A towering figure sat there. He had a few dozen tentacles on his body. His tentacle arm was grabbing onto a wine cup. His huge head solemnly said, "They did not hide their path of slaughter at all. They are practically killing along the nearest primal chaos land. According to their route, they should be here soon." This time, even 2 void gods of the Unity realm would lose their lives, much less the 2 of them. Don't kill them so easily. We must let them howl in pain for 1 trillion years and let them know the price of offending us. They dare to provoke us? Their killing intent was dense. In the past, there would occasionally be cultivators acting, but most of them were cautious. Those cultivators could guess that this superpower was not ordinary, and the higher-ups did not care. They treated it as a form of training for their subordinates. But this time it was different. The protectors of the primal chaos land were continuously massacred. Furthermore, it was done at an extremely fast speed. This had infuriated the higher-ups behind them, and they had to deal with these 2 daring cultivators as soon as possible. Star. Chapter 807. 2 figures appeared from the void. They were none other than Dongbua Shui Ying and Luo Hai. The 2 of them did not hesitate to fly towards the huge primal chaos great land in front of them. Ha ha! The 2 of you are finally here. Following that, a vigorous voice transmitted across the vast primal chaos void. Shui Ying's expression could not help but change. Not good. He and brother Luo Hai had finally provoked a true expert from this superpower after killing so many people. They had not even entered the primal chaos great land, yet the other party had already sensed them. Clearly, they had been waiting for them. Interesting. Brother Dongbua, don't worry. Let's see how many experts they have. Luo Hai was slightly excited as he watched. Dongbua Shuang felt helpless. Luo Hai could fight against Unity Realm existences, but he would be swept away if he faced a Unity Realm expert. Amen. Dongbua Shui Ying's expression suddenly changed. Be careful. They have already set up an array. Furthermore, the area of effect is huge. Luo Hai turned to look too. Behind him was an incomparably vast and cold primal chaos void. Currently, there were countless black clouds rolling. The black clouds covered everything. The area of effect was much bigger than what Dongbua Shui Ying could sense towards the void. In other words, the area of effect of this array had exceeded the size of a cosmos. There are only a few Unity Realm experts who specialize in arrays who could set up such an array. Luo Hai's expression changed slightly. They have long set up such an array because they are afraid that we would teleport away. That is why they set up such an array. No, this is an array set up by a primal chaos existence. Luo Hai's expression changed abruptly. At the very least, a portion of this array is refined by a primal chaos giant. Dongbua Shui saw it too. The rolling black clouds enveloped the entire place. There were actually lightning snakes swimming within the black clouds. Furthermore, there was rain falling from the clouds. Dongbua Shui could even feel the taste of air. In a vast primal chaos void, it actually caused rain and air to appear in a vast area. This was already a method of creating a world from the primal chaos void. The core components of the array were definitely refined by a primal chaos existence. We're in big trouble. Dongbua Shui was also panicking. The survival techniques of the Great Void Heaven Temple Golden Robe disciples had never been used to deal against primal chaos realm giants. The protective treasure of the Void Walker, the Black Gourd, was something that he could only rely on to deal with Unity Realm experts who were one level higher, even after he became a Void God in the future. They could not deal against primal chaos existences. What was the primal chaos realm? There were many void gods, especially those in the Ancestor Mother religion system, the Bloodline system, the Devour class system, and others. The difficulty of producing void gods was relatively low, but the number of primal chaos realm experts, regardless of which cultivation system it was pitifully small. Furthermore, every primal chaos realm giant was famous across the 5 great sacred worlds. Stepping from the Unity realm to the primal chaos realm was a qualitative change in one's strength. For example, in the laws and profound mystery system, one could develop a miniature universe within their body. Every move he made was filled with the power of the miniature universe. Cosmos gods usually could not deal against primal chaos realm experts unless their true bodies arrived. Most of them were just incarnations. It shouldn't be to the extent where the primal chaos realm comes personally, right? Dongbua Shui sneered. Even if there are over 200 primal chaos great lands, they shouldn't be placed in the eyes of primal chaos existences. That was what he thought in his heart. But with the surrounding black clouds, lightning, rain, and air, this enormous array was operating on the laws of a miniature cosmos. The difficulty of controlling such an array was extremely high. It would require several Unity Realm experts to work together to control it. Are you afraid now? A deep voice sounded. 5 huge figures could be vaguely seen amidst the black clouds. Afraid? Just a few of you? The silver-robed Luo Hai sneered. Bring out whatever techniques you have. Let me have a look at them. Truly seeking death. A huge hairy hoof claw extended out from the black clouds. It was too huge, and it smashed down towards Dongbua Shui and Luo Hai at the same time. Seeing this, Luo Hai immediately pulled out the saber behind his back. With a flash of blade light, a resplendent blade light clashed against that huge hairy hoof claw. Dongbua Shui had long held onto his survival talisman. The Golden Robe disciples of the Great Void Heaven Temple had a total of 3 talismans: the Concealment Talisman, Teleportation Talisman, and Defense Talisman. Within such a terrifying array, teleportation was definitely not possible. Concealment would not be of much use either. The only thing he could do was defend. The Defense Talisman could defend against attacks from Unity Realm experts, but it would not work against Primal Chaos Realm experts. But the Black Gourd Treasure Spirit had already told him that there were 5 Unity Realm experts ahead. The blade light clashed with the huge hoof claw. Luo Hai's body trembled. Traces of blood could be seen at the edge of his mouth, but he still managed to resist. He grinned and glanced at Dongbua Shui behind him. Old brother Dongbua, rest assured. I've said before that I'll protect you. These fools can't injure you or me. Even by relying on the laws of the array, I can't slap him to death. Activate the full power of the array. Suppress him to death. Go. The huge hoof claw struck out once again. But this time, a world could be vaguely seen appearing on the hoof claw. That world was also filled with rolling black clouds. There were lightning, rain, and air. It was like a miniature version of the entire array. Its power had clearly skyrocketed. Luo Hai snorted coldly when he saw that. The surface of his body suddenly released a golden light. The dimmed golden light was like a light cover that protected Donghua Shui Ying by his side and also protected him. Hua! When the hoof claw slapped down, Luo Hai held his blade horizontally above his head. Hong, this time, the power was clearly much stronger. Luo Hai's body trembled, and a fog of blood spurted out from his mouth. The surrounding golden light also trembled, though it remained intact. Even a Unity Realm expert can be easily killed by us when we work together. How can he, an Origin Birth Realm expert, resist so easily? The 5 Unity Realm Void gods were greatly startled, but they still continued attacking. Hong, hong, hong. The hoof claw slammed down again and again. It was already taxing for them to control this array, and adding the power of the array onto the hoof claw was already their full strength. That was why they could only attack with a hoof claw each time. But they were clear that this hoof claw was sufficient to shatter a primal chaos great land. But this silver-robed teenager was actually able to resist against it. He resisted against it continuously for more than a dozen times. Ha ha ha, rest assured. Luo Hai was shaken to the point of spurting out blood. He looked at Donghua swaying behind him. Younger brother Dongbo, do you see that? I said that I can protect you, and they can't harm you. Donghua Shui Ying watched this scene. At this moment, the status of Luo Hai in his heart rose by a lot. Just based on these methods, you are still far from it. Your grandfather is much stronger than you void creatures in terms of god body. Luo Hai guffawed. Truly a group of trash. A cold voice sounded. It reverberated in every single place, just like a gust of cold wind blowing on their souls, causing Donghua Shui Ying and Luo Hai to feel their hearts trembling uncontrollably. In the distance, the 5 Unity Realm experts had already revealed their true bodies. They were currently standing by the side with fear and trepidation, welcoming the newcomer respectfully. One could see a thin, gray-skinned male appearing in the distance. His entire body was embedded with several pieces of strange metal that protected his crotch, chest, back, and other areas. He was extremely thin to the point that one could see all the bones in his body. He was just like a skeleton. His eyes, on the other hand, were empty. Donghua Shui Ying's expression changed. How long had it been since he left his hometown? And he was not even a void god, yet he had met a primal chaos expert. That time at Lake Hard Island, Swordmaster had reached this realm in his hometown cosmos. That was a realm that could even resist against the laws of the starting ground. Luo Hai felt his throat turning dry. Didn't I just kill some brats, and a primal chaos expert has to personally appear? Big trouble, unless I have to ask my father for help. Chapter 808. In the 5 great sacred worlds and the primal chaos void, there were very few who could reach the primal chaos realm. All of them could intimidate a region and become a forefather, making many cultivators follow them. Furthermore, they had a cooperative relationship with cosmos gods because the experiences of cosmos gods were not useful to them. Otherwise, there would not be so few who reached the final realm, cosmos god. Just 200 over primal chaos lands. Killing some origin birth realm void creatures would provoke a primal chaos existence. This was something unfathomable. Heaven Weeping Sect Master. Donghua Shui Ying had detailed intelligence. He could recognize this terrifying existence with a glance. He was one of the 3 giants under Ancestor Bone. Heaven Weeping Sect Master. Ancestor Bone did not even blink when a sacred son like Gu Qian Luo died. But towards heaven-weeping sect master, even Ancestor Bone would welcome him with a smile. This was his left and right arm. The arrogant Luo Hai could not speak at this moment. The heaven-weeping sect master looked so skinny that one could see all the bones in his body. However, each and every one of his bones was extremely thick and sturdy. It was as though they were even more indestructible than some void divine weapons. Just by standing there, the aura emitted by his skeletal body caused the 5 Unity Realm void creatures to feel suffocated. There was only a single step from the Unity Realm to the Primal Chaos Realm, yet the gap in power was bigger than the gap between Paragon and Ruler. A group of trash. I cultivated a secret technique and asked all of you to guard this region, yet you can't even complete such a small task. Heaven-weeping sect master coldly said. The 5 subordinates were nervous and respectful. They did not even dare to defend themselves. Heaven-weeping sect master then turned his gaze to the distant Dongbua, Shui, Ying, and Luo Hai. Reaching his level, he would not be so foolish as to casually kill others because he understood that there were some terrifying existences in the 5 great sacred worlds and primal chaos void that he could not afford to offend. Even Ancestor Bone behind him could not. Even Void Walker Gucci, who was one of the cosmos gods, had to escape in a sorry state because of a huge enemy. He was even heavily injured and nearly died. One could see that the stronger one was, the more careful he would be. Amen. Heaven-weeping sect master first looked at Luo Hai because Luo Hai's body was too resilient previously, such a powerful body. None of the ordinary void gods under my sect could compare to him. This true god ruler by the side has a slightly more unique body. He should have cultivated a powerful void-related secret technique. There were many secret techniques that allowed one's body to lean towards a void, so the Heaven-weeping Gate Master could not be sure that it was a void walker. 2 brats. The Heaven-weeping sect master stretched out his hand. Boom! Countless black raindrops appeared out of thin air. These black raindrops formed into a gigantic hand, instantly grabbing Dongbua, Shui, Ying, and Luo Hai. The 2 of them couldn't escape in time, and even Dongbua, Shui, Ying couldn't activate the life-saving talisman in his hand. When the Heaven-weeping sect master made his move, the formless pressure had already caused his soul to stagnate. Dongbua, Shui, Ying could feel the pressure from his willpower, making it hard for him to breathe. He was unable to control the true God energy in his body, and his vision was blurry and his ears were ringing. Death, the aura of death was approaching. Unless I'm going to die, just like this? Dongbua Shui Ying was unwilling. Even though he was prepared to die the moment he left his hometown cosmos, since the path of cultivation was filled with many dangers, he had just left his hometown and had yet to arrive at any sacred world. It would be too unjust for him to die like this. Furthermore, it was because of Luo Hai's persuasion that Dongbua Shui Ying could sweep through the cosmos so wantonly. Luo Hai was the son of Lord Lo Chung, and with the status of Lord Lo Chung in the Easter Unicorn Sacred World, there shouldn't be any problem. Tell me where you came from. This is the only chance for you to survive. The voice of Heaven-weeping sect master directly transmitted into the soul of Dongbua Shui Ying. Dongbua Shui Ying felt slightly uncontrollable as he took the initiative to say, I'm a golden-robed disciple of the great void heaven temple. Dongbua Shui Ying. I origin great land. Luo Hai was slightly unable to control himself. Following that, a golden light flashed in his eyes, and he broke free from his control. Origin Great Land. Heaven-weeping sect master was slightly puzzled when he heard that. He felt that this silver-robed teenager might have an even greater origin. But he had never heard of Origin Great Land, even with his status. Could it be the name of an ordinary primal chaos land? There are countless primal chaos lands, and there might be some that are unknown. Regarding the Origin Great Land, Heaven-weeping sect master's mind flashed by, following which his eyes landed on Dongbua Shui Ying. This unremarkable true god ruler had indeed given him a shock. A golden-robed disciple of the great void heaven temple. Heaven Weeping Sect Master coldly said, "How dare you? The great void heaven temple belongs to the seven-star oceanic sacred world. You, a golden-robed disciple, actually came to the Eastern Unicorn's sacred world to spoil my plans. You're truly looking down on me." Dongwu Shui Ying felt helpless. How would he know that a primal chaos existence would appear? He opened his mouth and wanted to speak, but under the unseen pressure, he was unable to speak. It was clear that Heaven Weeping Sect Master wasn't willing to let him speak. Instead, it was Luo Hai who could forcefully speak. "Old brother Dongbua, you are quite formidable. A golden-robed disciple of the great Void Heaven Temple. I've heard that golden-robed disciples are the treasures of the great Void Heaven Temple, and they would nurture them with all their might. Whoever dares to kill them, the great Void Heaven Temple would send a large group of experts to kill them." Dongbua Shuang could only squeeze out a smile. He could not speak. But what Luo Hai said was right. Golden-robed disciples, they were the treasures of the great Void Heaven Temple. If some ordinary disciples died while adventuring outside, it would not matter. After all, there were many who died while adventuring. Even though they would investigate the cause of death, they would rarely go to war unless there was a huge injustice. But for golden-robed disciples, the moment they were killed, the great Void Heaven Temple would treat it seriously. They would not let the matter rest so easily. After all, there were only 11 golden-robed disciples in the entire great Void Heaven Temple, including Dongbua Shuang, and they were the future of the great Void Heaven Temple. Hence, before killing them, they had to consider if they could withstand the fury of the great Void Heaven Temple. If Heaven Weeping Sect Master was in the ancient sacred world, he would definitely not be afraid. He would kill him without a second word, because the great Void Heaven Temple did not dare to kill their way into the ancient sacred world. But the Eastern Unicorn sacred world was different. The great Void Heaven Temple had a good relationship with several superpowers in the Eastern Unicorn sacred world. They only had a poor relationship with Ancestor Bone. Hence, the moment he was killed, the great Void Heaven Temple would definitely kill their way over. And Ancestor Bone might not be able to hold on. After all, the current great Void Heaven Temple was much stronger than it was in the past. Since you dared to offend me, you can stay in my Ghost Weeping Pagoda for 100,000 years. If you survive, I'll let you out on account of the face of the great Void Heaven Temple. Heaven Weeping Sect Master coldly said. The Ghost Weeping Pagoda was a place he specially used to imprison and torture people. Even void gods would howl in pain after entering. Hence, it was called Ghost Weeping Pagoda. Most would be tortured to death. Under normal circumstances, Dongbua Shuang could not hold on for 100,000 years. But Heaven Weeping Sect Master was just saying it. He would torture Dongbua Shuang fiercely to vent his anger. Yet he would preserve Dongbua Shui Ying's little life. If the golden-robed disciple did not die, the great Void Heaven Temple would not go to the extent of going to war over this matter. Ghost Weeping Pagoda, Dongbua Shuang was slightly confused. Even though he knew a lot of information, he did not know what the Ghost Weeping Pagoda was. But it did not sound like a good place. Heaven Weeping, you are really formidable. You actually made a golden-robed disciple of my great Void Heaven Temple stay in your Ghost Weeping Pagoda for 100,000 years. A cold voice resounded in the vast void. One could see a figure directly coming out from the rolling black clouds. The arrays could not obstruct him at all. He was wearing a luxurious black robe, and his blood-colored hair was fluttering in the wind. His pair of cold eyes caused these void creatures to feel a chill. They loved to kill, but when this existence came, they felt their hearts trembling. Why don't I bring you to my great Void Heaven Temple Punishment Hall's Devil Purgatory and let you have a taste? His black robe and blood-colored hair were fluttering in the wind. The eyes of the person who came were filled with cold, killing intent. He had even started permeating into the soul of Heaven Weeping Sect Master. That was extreme coldness, slaughter, and cruelty. Heaven Weeping Sect Master's expression changed slightly. He snorted coldly before expelling the unseen pressure from the other party. Great Void Heaven Temple, Ancestor Devil. Bang, 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 bang. All of a sudden, the bodies of the 5 Unity Realm Void creatures shattered like ice cubes. They exploded into countless ice shards and turned into nothingness. At the same time, the black rainwater hand that was grabbing on a Dongbua, Shui Ying, and Luo Hai was instantly frozen and shattered. Dongbua, Shui Ying, and Luo Hai were controlled to fly behind the Ancestor Devil. Dongbua Shui Ying looked at the Ancestor Devil with eyes filled with surprise. Ancestor Devil? The Ancestor Devil stood there. He did not even look at the 5 Unity Realm experts that had died. He said coldly, "All the void creatures in the 289 primal chaos lands shall be killed without mercy. I will kill these 5 first." That you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.